It is a beautiful Friday morning here in Alpharetta, Georgia, and it is my pleasure to welcome everyone watching here into Season 9 of the SPL, the Kickoff tournament happening this weekend. My name's Gormizer, and of course, it is going to be a lot of fun. You also probably noticed a lot of birthday stuff. It's Smite's birthday. We got it everywhere. We're going to be doing a lot of that. Look, it's a little present. I like that. I've got Trelly on the desk. Trelly finally here for an SPL cast, your first one officially on the team here. I guess this is desk. The cast is a little bit later. Either way, I'm sure you're just as excited as I am.
I'm more excited for Smite's birthday, if we're honest. The balloons are getting me
I'm
so hyped at this
I'm
point.
excited about this graphics patches. I just saw our Twitters pop up. It looks so cool. Everything about it. I love the neon. I love the fresh look, and I do like the copious amounts of balloons that are everywhere. It's going to be a really, really fun day for everything that we have going forward. Again, it's a kickoff land, so that means we have a bracket to look at here, and of course, you're going to get to see every single SPL team, quarterfinals, best of 3, all single elimination, and then tomorrow we're going to be getting into the best of 5s for the semis, best of 5 for the finals, and there's a third place match there on Sunday as well, so make sure you tune into that. And of course, all of these teams facing off against each other. You've got new teams making their way in. You've got a team making their way back in the Warriors. You've got world champions. You've got some who just stuck together. I'm looking at you, Bolts, to see what exactly is going to continue throughout this year. A good first look at a lot of these teams, but of course, the first matchup that we do have on the day is that Leviathans versus Valkyries. And Shelly, I mean, you've got world champs going up against new blood. It's going to be a very interesting test, I guess is the way I would describe it. A really fun match to see what these teams have. I also think it's worth mentioning that throughout the day, we're going to be having a lot of fun. Again, it's the birthday. And while we're watching all these fun sets, and of course these are the sets that you're going to see throughout all of them, Dragons and Bolts, I'm excited for that one because we got Pagon coming in for the Dragons. Scarabs and Kings should be really interesting because I have a lot of trust in the Scarabs, and of course the Titans and the Warriors will be the last set of the day. But throughout the day, not only are you going to be getting good Smite, you're going to be getting, like, I guess, like a weird, the only way I can describe it is fun memes. We've got a cake, right? Again, it's the birthday. So we are going to be celebrating the proper way. And we've got a cake that is going to be showcased throughout the day on the weight screens and I guess in various other positions. We're going to be decorating it throughout the day, and you can see how fun that's going to be. So you're going to get to watch us as we celebrate it. It is a giant, just white brick right now of icing and delicious. And of course, there's Mifflin with the augural, I'm going to say, decoration on it. I can see that there's sprinkles on there now. They didn't show up very well into the lights, but there's sprinkles on there now. That's going to be going on throughout the rest of the day. So again, make sure you do that. And of course, there's like gym sales, there's events going on in the game right now. So if you want to go play, definitely the time to do it. Trelly, though, we've got to talk about this.
Yeah.
World champs versus the new blood on the block. It's going to be a lot of fun. But if we hone in specifically on the guys behind me, the Leviathans, this is a team that was really good in Season 7, but faltered when it came down to lands, then really good in Season 8 and won the whole damn thing, and now probably looking to be pretty good in Season 9.
Yeah, definitely looks like it. I mean, coming off the backs of being the world champions, you have this sort of target on your back, right? Everyone wants a shot at you. You have a lot to prove, and pretty much every match is your match to lose, right? I mean, you've shown how much you can do. You've shown how good you are at this game. Now the question is, did they spend the offseason celebrating, or were they, getting after trying to learn this new meta?
That's just, their version of celebrating is just to play more Smite.
Yep.
That's it. That's the thing with this team. It was fun to joke about it, and because like Zap, first off, has got a haircut. I don't know if everybody caught up on that. We had a media day with him recently, and I believe he was even asked about that, but he did get a haircut, despite the fact that I think he originally had said he wasn't going to cut it until he lost Worlds again. But so maybe that's the curse, right? Maybe he cut the hair, and this year everything just falls apart. No, I'm excited because this is a team that, again, just has always looked good. They've got a lot of good players. They've been able to, stand at the top, as you had just mentioned, and yet they love to play Smite. Like, they had to put so many hours in to get to that point, and I can almost bet within a week they were like grinding, staying up till 3 a.m., playing whatever queues they happen to be in.
Yeah, they're definitely hungry for the Smite grind. There's no secret about that. I remember right when they won Worlds, someone posted a picture of Panatom in the queues, and they're like, "This man's playing ranked right now." Obviously, it was a joke, but that's the sort of ethic that these guys have. It's the reason they're so good. I mean, they just constantly want to be playing this game, grinding it, playing it to the best of their ability.
And it's got to be and this is something I'm going to ask them about, but like, there's this weird balance, right? So for Zap, at this point, you've won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
So theoretically, this year, if it doesn't go well for you, that's not the end of the world. Well, maybe it is. Maybe he wants to go 5 in a row and really just get like the full bling for his hand. But like for everybody else, it's this, dichotomy of like, well, you just won Worlds. Do you need to do it again? And also, well, you just won Worlds. Like, is there a lot more pressure on you to perform to that standard? And I think today, especially this first set, like, you're coming in. We've seen what this Valks team is capable of in the past, but like, this is going to be their first chance to like strike at a top team. And we'll see whether or not the Leviathans are worried about that. We've got Hardcore standing by. A nice MVP pose ready for you. And the last time you were, I think, in this room, well, that's not true. We had the media day, but the last time it was SBL-oriented in this room, you were lifting a hammer, feeling pretty good. So the last competitive set you played was at Worlds. How does it feel to be back?
I mean, it feels really good. I think we are excited for today. It's been a really long break. It's, 2 months, maybe?
Yeah.
A little bit more. So, I mean, I think we're excited to play today.
I'm excited to watch you play today. I think everybody is. This is an interesting one because with Season 9, we got some new introductions, and I'm not going to ask you about like your specific meta. It's actually the other side of the map I want to ask you about. The Obelisk was introduced, and it brought a lot of attention to the duo lane and kind of away from solo. How do you feel about that dynamic? Like, has your lane changed that much, or do you think that it's just the same old, same old?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different. Like, for example, in my lane, there is only 1 flower now. So, I mean, it's not like the big impact that you can have. But I think in general, it's a pretty like good objective to have and to like just play around it. Like when you're playing your ranked game and you see the other support stealing like your obelisk, you're like, yo, what is this guy doing? So I think it's a really like cool mechanic to have.
Before I let you go, I do want to know, you're world champs. Are you feeling any pressure this year to perform to that standard?
Not really. I think, I mean, at least myself, I'm just going to play like I haven't won anything and I have a lot more to prove still. So that is what I'm going to do this year.
To be fair, you kind of did play 2 competitive roles in one season and won that champion. I guess for you, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. I don't know if there's a lot of pressure. Thanks for your time, man. Good luck in your games. It's going to be exciting to watch as we get into, again, Trelly, this matchup of the Valkyries, which is an interesting team to try and take on. Again, this is a team that they beat the Titans 3-0 in the finals. They beat the Kings at 3-1. They've looked really good across the board. Whereas, you're looking at this new Valkyries team. It is worth mentioning, brand new Valkyries team. I'm still keeping track of like total stats, right? So technically they're inheriting a 20-set loss streak from their predecessors, but this is a fresh look and a fresh team especially, but they've got a lot of competitive experience behind them. It's just whether or not this SPL jump, at least for some of them, Aquarius, Wowie, they've kind of been around the scene, is going to be as big as we've seen in the past.
Yeah, it's definitely a big leap to take, especially as your first time as a unit playing in the SPL. Of course, a few players have their own SPL experience on the roster, but as a team, as a 5-man, it's going to be quite the jump to take. But I do think, this is a young team that has a lot of talent. I think they're definitely able to perform at this level. They've proved that time and time again. So they might have a little bit of rust to shake off, but after they get into the group, I think they definitely have what it takes.
And I'm just excited to see what they have to offer today. There's a lot of avenues that can come in when you're going up against a team like the Leviathans for them. But they've always been, I want to say, like when we've watched them in the SEC, when we watch them even in the SBL plans, they know how to play the meta, but twist it just enough that it fits their style. And so I'm excited just for what picks and bans could be, because like even here, like the highlights, granted we're watching Gamma, this was very duo lane meta-esque. I can't help but be drawn to, like BitiQue's playing Raw. You've got a Fenrir over there in the solo lane. Like they're willing to adapt to whatever is going to make things cleaner for them as a team.
Yeah, if you're not playing to their style, I mean, you're definitely doing it wrong. They know how to change the meta into their favor, as you've said. It's very difficult to target them in picks and bans, especially in that mid lane specifically. I mean, BitiQue is going to bring all sorts of picks that you're not expecting, and if you're not ready for it, I mean, they're going to roll over you. They've proven it time and time again, as we see that beautiful double snipe line up there. So they got to, anyone they're facing right now, they got to make sure they're bringing it.
And I think that this is maybe the perfect example of a highlight for this team, because they were able to go up against the Warriors. They didn't end up winning that set, but they made it competitive the entire time, right? And if you get a team like that, you're coming into this fresh. The Warriors looked competitive against every team in the league sometimes last year, and I think we got to see them at their best during the play-ins. So I do think that we are going to get to see a lot of fun today from what this team has to offer. And I'm just excited to kick it off. I think this is a fun, like, you get a fresh team, you get the world champs, you get everything here right in the very first matchup. Makes things incredibly interesting. What are you looking out for on this team, though?
Right now, I'm looking for some early mid pressure. That's what I want to see right now. I want to see some great fights, some 3v3, some 2v2s early. Of course, it depends on which start they want to go for. Obviously, if the jungle's going to hang around solo lane or mid lane regardless. But I want to see some fun smite, some interesting picks, and I want to kick off the SPL.
And, well, the good news is we can at least talk to the Valkyries about how they're going to feel kicking things off. We got BitiQue standing over here. I will warn you, it's the scrawl of a madman, because originally you were going to be Aquarius, which is not the way it was. This is the first time as a team for you guys playing an SBL set. How's everyone feeling this morning?
I think everyone's really excited. We're not too nervous. Not that many expectations against the world champs, so we're feeling good.
You are going to be going up against Shinto. And, there's a lot of things to talk about. Like, mechanically, he's a really good player. Obviously, returning world champ. Farm-wise, Shinto is just insane. Like, I feel like Panatom is eating literal scraps to make sure that Shinto gets levels up. What's it like going up against, and, like, in your mind, how do you prepare to lane against someone like that?
Kind of just have to focus on my own farm, try to keep up as best as I can, and make some plays, I guess.
Just make the big plays, easiest thing. I want to know, like, you're the fresh team technically coming in this year. What do you see as the biggest challenges you're going to be able to face?
Just not taking losses too hard to start the season, and I think we'll just improve pretty quickly.
Just kind of take them with a chip on your shoulder, do whatever you can to learn, continue moving on. Well, it sounds like you guys have a good mindset. Sounds like you're excited for today, and of course, I'm excited to see what you guys have to offer. So thanks for your time and good luck in your games, man.
Thank you.
And Shelly, it's just that easy. Sometimes you just got to, like, again, well, admittedly, learning to take a loss can be kind of difficult early on. But I do think that that's going to be something that once this team gets it under locks, or maybe they already have it under locks and they don't know it yet, it's going to potentially unlock a lot of potential for this team and really create an interesting dynamic throughout the year. I'm going to be keeping my eye on this Valks roster, I think, every single month, like, see the progress. And today, I think, is going to be a really good showcase to kick things off. I think next week is going to be interesting as well, because I think, like, with their first matchup is, like, the Dragons or something in the regular schedule. It's going to be really, really fun to watch. Again, though, it is Smite's birthday, in case you haven't noticed. We've got tins and we've got balloons. And that means that you can go in to the game and, of course, experience a lot of fun stuff, not just being awarded for playing the game, specifically whenever you get, I believe, a win, but you can get, like, the Husky Handler Scotty, some community art cosmetics in the game. There's also a 33% gym sale. That's the biggest deal. You can go in there, get whatever skins. If you've had your eye on a chest and you're like, man, how can I roll this? You've 33% off, get as many gyms as you want, and, of course, make things look really good. That's going to be going on until Sunday. The 27th is the last day of the gym sale, so make sure you get in there and get your gyms now, or else your wallet's going to be crying, because in 3 weeks, some new skin or something's going to come out, and you're going to be thinking, man, I wish I had gyms. And so get them now while you can. And, of course, be just prepared for that one. Shelly, what are gods you're expecting today? I know that's kind of out of left field, but, like, what kind of gods are you expecting?
I mean, when I think about this Valks roster, because that's where my head goes immediately, because those are those picks that you're not going to expect. Obviously, it's a new meta right now. We're sort of coming off this back burner where I think Yargor's had 2-3 months almost at this point when it's seen these competitive sets. So I hope they've been cooking up something fresh. But again, when you're looking at this Valks roster, they're going to bring out your Tsukuyomi's mids, your Shock mids, these sort of things that you would never expect, and usually you wouldn't expect them to work. At the very least, it's going to be something. I'm hoping we're seeing something that we wouldn't expect.
We're gonna highlight, like, BitiQue's fringe picks. He's gonna, like, just lock in Merlin 3 games. Yep. They're gonna push us to 3. That's exactly what I said. I said 3 games. It's the best of 3. He's gonna just play Merlin, or what's another, like, boring? Tiamat. He's just gonna lock him in and just kind of play.
Yeah, I mean that is certainly an option, because I mean at the very least this double flat pen mage meta was not as potent when Benny was breaking out these picks. So at the very least, we're going to see some sort of different drafts.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. I don't want to see the same cookie cutter picks. It's the beginning of the season. This is the time to show you what you got. Obviously, Benny just came in for the interview. Said, you know, they're going to try their best. They're not going to stand too hopeful on this L if they do take it, because they're just a little bit worried about the fact that it's the world champs. But at the very least, they're going to come out here swinging as the underdogs, as this new roster that they have got everything to prove and really nothing to lose right now.
And it's going to be exciting. Again, we kind of mentioned it, I think, in the interview with Hardcore there, but like early this year, there was a lot of discussion specifically about like duo lane pressure being very important, and that's alleviated a little bit with the Obelisk nerfs that happened in 9.2. So like they're playing on the more recent patch, so things have changed from what we kind of expected jumping in to this season. But we still, at least in the SEC, been seeing a lot of that pressure still exist over there. Your Bacchuses, teams that want to get aggressive, and that'll make things fun to watch with specifically like Gamma, because I know Gamma likes to play that style. We saw them doing that during the SBL plans. But also, I don't know if I ever want to lane against Wrong You just in general. I think any support being meta, he's mechanically just one of the best, and I think that's going to be an interesting like specific area of this game.
Yeah, I think so too. But if you're the Valks right now, I think your best option, because as you touched on before, their farm game, the Leviathan specifically, is insane. So I don't think you're drafting this late game roster trying to get to level 20 and out team fight the world champs. I don't think that's the way to do this. I think right now, if you're the Valks, you're drafting an early game comp. You're hitting them hard as you can early, hoping that they don't get to that point where they're level 20. They're able to team fight, some of the best team fights in the league right now, obviously. So I think you're trying to hit them early, get that lead where you can.
It's also interesting to talk about, and specifically for the dual lane, Wowie also returning to the SBL. We had mentioned Aquarius, I think, a little bit earlier, but like Wowie making his play back into this. And he has played a lot against Zap, and at least in Season 7, did play a bit against Wrong You. He's never had to deal with them as a pair, though. He wasn't in the SBL last year. Is that something, like, are you maybe a little worried about that, or do you think the Valks are going to be at least adaptable enough that it's not going to, like, trip them up completely?
I mean, I think if we asked him, he'd be lying if he said he wasn't a little worried. I think
True.
I think
Everybody should be a little
worried.
worried.
I think anyone should be a little worried, but you're not going to let that get to you. I mean, the name recognition alone should not be enough to falter Wowie at this point. He's been around, he's been in the scene for a while.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's, shaking in his boots just because he sees the world champion tags on them. At the very least, he's going to play it safe, try to farm up, as I said. If you can't get that early lead, if you can't win that early 2v2, just make sure you're getting your camps when you can, not getting invaded too hard, and, play to your strengths.
We'll see how things go. Again, they're getting into game, getting ready for picks and bans here. And in my mind, it's so weird because, again, when you watch, and as we have SCC over the last couple of weeks, and specifically they were even the qualifiers. It wasn't even like the quote-unquote official SCC. So you get a lot of fringe picks, a lot of things that are either going to come out of left field or some kind of hangovers from Season 8, right? Fenrir support, Circuit support, I think kind of reminiscent of that. Even if they might still be good, you're never as certain about it. You never know what the full new meta is until one of these guys comes in and they're just like, oh, by the way, this is the god to be playing. And it makes things a little interesting. Is there, at least like jungle-wise, we used to see a lot of Gilgamesh. We saw a lot of warriors throughout the latter half of Season 8, even after they got a little bit nerfed. Do you think Panatom, like that was his style, he loved that, he played really well with it. Is this still feeling maybe a little more assassin-centric, or do you think that he's just going to continue kind of rocking what he's been rocking? Will it work if he does?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't tell what they've been scrimming and things of that nature, but right now, I mean, as the meta's still starting in, I see no reason why he couldn't just fall back on his Erlong Shen or his Gilgamesh, those sort of picks.
Do still kind of be good.
Yeah, those picks, there's nothing wrong with them at the moment. I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't pick those if he wanted to. But again, he could just be trying to test out some new things. Again, it is the beginning of the season. This sort of meta will be created here right before our eyes. What is going to be good? What is going to be prioritized? And I think if you're the Valks, unless you've been like extensively doing your research here, you can't really go for those target bans. I think right now you're going off of those meta picks, those things that we've seen already in the SECs and the play-ins, those sort of picks that are already strong because I mean, right now you really don't know what everyone's been breaking out. Hopefully they're not revealing all of their strats, right away.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Again, a lot of these teams, they're playing on land. You probably noticed a couple of pictures there. I know Aquarius, I think, said he was out, and we found out this morning because he's not feeling too well. So he is still playing at home. I believe Gamma and Wowie are also playing at home. So right now the Valks are kind of chilling with just the 2 in the booth versus the 5 over on the other side, which is going to be, an interesting topic to maybe look at for them. And I'm excited to see when they do finally all get here. Granted, 2 is better than what we were able to manage last year. So it worked out pretty well. Also worth mentioning today, and this is just because it's going to come up, and we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but like Charybdis as well as Shiva. Shiva is currently comp banned just because new god. But I almost said Charty B because that's what we had written down for us. But it is Charybdis who's going to be banned, which only really comes up because Zap likes playing that god. It was very easy. Hey, you're just going to stay immune for 9 seconds total. And, hey, Zap gets dove a lot. We'll see what they opt for in place of that. Once again, I'm blown away by how awesome this graphics package is. Looks really solid. First ban, not what I thought I was going to see. It's the Kleena.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing that I was expecting. Just those top meta picks. Obviously Kleena not being the top jungler, and also a little bit of solo play. But still, those picks where it's just like you don't really know what these teams are going to be playing. You don't really know the strats are going to be whipping out. So just stick to what you know. Stick to what you've seen in the SCC qualities and the play-ins. That's the only really competitive Smite we've been able to see since Worlds at this point. So Bacchus, very strong Guardian right now, getting pretty much infinite pressure in that duo lane. Kleena, solid jungler. We saw, a little bit of success on the Kleena, as well as, a little bit, again, her pick right now is she's going to be something you don't expect. You can't really outplay this Kleena when she's in the wall, things of that nature. So I think these are the bands I would be expecting right now, just those top sort of picks, nothing really targeted right now.
Now, here's the interesting conversation. I think everybody else, and I'm going to list them off. You had mentioned the Kleena, the Bacchus, Serket, banned out here by the Leviathans. Zeus, Artio get banned out. Those all make sense, especially if you've watched anything the Leviathans have been able to make. You mentioned Erlang Shin earlier. We'll probably break into that, but that is the first pick of the season. But the Emoja is where I want to go into, because I've been seeing a lot of rumblings from top tier players saying they weren't feeling too hot on the Emoja. At the same time, wrong use Emoja is deadly, so it's that weird trade-off.
No, that's a wrong you target ban I've ever seen one. Anytime you're ever facing Ronnie, or at least versus him, anytime that this pick is on the map, you're getting riptided, you're getting pulled into the Rivers of Buke. No matter who it is, no matter what, if it's casuals, ranked, a competitive setting, this man doesn't miss. So I can completely see why that was on their mind. Get rid of that Emoja. I 100% agree. But that Bastet and Medusa, that's exactly what I expected to see. I mean, those are the top meta picks we were talking about. Medusa, great time to get pressure right now in the duo lane. Bastet, you can flex to solo and or jungle, and it's just going to give you lots of pressure. But I'm so happy. We both just looked over. We've been talking about this Atlas pick so much.
And the only person that we've seen run it realistically in the SCC consistently has been Hurry, right? And he was role swapping over to support. And so it's definitely been something that it looked really good for that team, but I feel like this is going to be a very big eye-opener for him. Cerberus locked in alongside the Medusa Bastet for the Valkyries. Yeah. But it's Erlang Shin, Camazotz, Atlas. For the most part, the Leviathan, outside of Atlas, they're kind of playing the same things we saw them lock in prior.
Yeah, why not? I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it. They don't need to. I mean, they're the ex-world champs. I mean, the current world champs, I should say, and they know their style of play. I will say, I hope at the very least that this Atlas pick opens some eyes of the people that are watching, because a lot of people right now think Atlas is not good, but the top-tier players in Smite right now, these pro players, they value this pick very highly. So you're going to see right now what Atlas can do.
And you got to think about survivability, I guess escapability in the duo lane. And Medusa, she's got a dash, but if that's on cooldown or if you don't have it early on, he's going to pull you into damage. We'll see what Zap ends up pairing with that. The bans that are coming through, the Morrigan and Tiamat, so 2 Shinto-oriented bans. Although, Tiamat, yes, but admittedly, the Morrigan was one that Shinto wasn't I need to preface this. He is not bad at the Morrigan, but she was not in the top 3 gods that I think of when I think of Shinto.
Right.
So it's definitely an interesting ban to me.
Yeah, I think right now it's probably just because of the double Camazotz or the double Bastet. In this case, not a double Bastet, but getting Bastet pulled back in after you have a Bastet, you never really want to give that away. And obviously, Bat Out of Hell, just a very solid engage or escape tool. So giving a mage that much survivability, I think right now, not your best option. So just taking it off the table just in case he was thinking about that Morrigan is
you're telling me you don't want to give Shinto a really survivable mage where he can just get even more farm on? I don't know, Trelly. I don't know. That's going to be a winning pick for you. The other bans on the other side, Fafnir and Ares, so a lot more specific. Well, assuming that the Cerberus is going over to solo lane like we've seen in the past.
Right.
So the Leviathans are on that train of thought. And they go for something that's going to try and limit that duo lane pressure. And if you were trying to, I think they've successfully done it. They get a Ganesh over there, not necessarily known for his first few levels of play.
Yeah, I think the Bacchus is going to give you way more pressure than that Ganesh. The Fafnir, at the very least, is going to provide so much objection shred. And that early hammer is going to be pretty detrimental. And the Ares pick, to me, that just says, hey, we don't want our Erlang to get shut down by these chains. Let's just get rid of that right away.
And I like the way that they are, trying to make sure that they themselves can hover up. I was excited because there was a Persephone hover. Leviathans, it was right before she got her remake. They were like the team, like Shinto just looked absolutely insane on this pick. And then he hasn't played her that much. I think actually maybe even at all since then. And if we were still in Season 8, I'd see an ESET hover, and I'd be talking to you about how, oh man, this is going support. What does this mean for Atlas? But ideally, that's not happening anymore. They're the team that beat it at Worlds. And so it does make things even more, I want to say spicy. I mean, she can do a lot, and she can do very little. It just depends on the position she gets put in. If she gets locked in here, how do you feel about ESET?
I think that it's very easy to dive her, but obviously that circle of protection is going to make it very difficult. Of course, you do have anti-heal on the top. You have a lot of anti-heal actually drafted by the other side. Obviously, Medusa and Cerberus are just going to apply that whenever they're around. So, ESET, with a solid team around her, with a good amount of space control, I think, obviously there's going to be no short of issues here. I think Shinto can just do whatever he wants on this pick. The space is going to be created. He's going to be setting up the CC. He's going to be peeling, but he's also going to be doing crazy damage. I see no reason why an ESET shouldn't be solid here with as much lockdown as they have on this Erlang, on this Atlas.
And I'm excited, I think, just to see what Kurnos is going to do. I want to talk about ESET with Shinto's experience lead, because that sounds like it's going to be deadly, and it's something to maybe chew into. But Kurnos is locked in. We saw him a few times last year, but he was not considered meta. He was not in the top 3. And from what we've been seeing over the last month or so when we've been watching these games, he hasn't really been on the short list of hunters either.
Yeah, he's definitely not in this great spot right now, but I think CERN into Medusa is a pretty solid matchup. His dash, on the other hand, cannot be stopped. Medusa, you can body block that dash. CERN, he could dash right through Medusa to block that dash if he needs to. So CERN has a pretty sick 1v1 in this regard, but the Dharmic Pillars could be the trouble. You're not jumping over those in any regard, so you are going to be taking that damage, or you're going to be sitting in the little cage for the full duration. So I think that, at this point, Zapdos is going to draft a lot of damage.
Yep.
CERN did get that buff recently where his 2 now cripples the Bramble, so that's going to be solid if he does opt to just try to stop that Medusa from dashing away, or the Bastet specifically. That could be very annoying if the Bastet opts to go for that. If Kirmi goes for Blink instead of Beads, you're going to need that CC immunity to jump back. I think all of those are pretty solid into the Bastet specifically.
It's a Persephone locked in there. And you know what? I think it falls right in line. It's not necessarily an eclectic BitiQue classic pick, but it is not necessarily, again, at the top of the list. So we've got this Persephone locked in. How are you feeling about that versus the ESET, especially when it comes into the 2v2? I'm assuming it's an Erlang jungle alongside the ESET.
Right. I think Persephone is going to have a rough time with how much dive they have. Again, she only has that 1 jump for peel, and then she has to use her ult or just try to, kite at that point. So Persephone, crazy damage output right now. Obviously, the double flat pen meta favors her very well. She essentially just has 4 crazy damaging abilities used together. She's got a lot of burst. So I think in this matchup specifically, she's going to have a rough time. She's going to have to get peeled out a lot, but she does have a Ganesh in the backline able to cancel a lot. So as long as Benny's positioning is fine, that farm game, she's going to have a little bit of help with her passive, so trying to keep up with what Shinto's able to do on this map. I think Persephone's definitely a smart grab here.
Now let's talk 5v5s, right? There's a lot of in duo lane, specifically, Kernagos can have a good matchup versus Medusa, can help stop ganks from Bastet, but when it comes into an FG fight, I see Camazotz, I'm thinking, okay, well, someone's backline's not going to be happy. They are going to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
But, we've seen the same thing from this Bastet lately, and she has, admittedly, mostly been solo. Not going to be solo here. This is going to be Kirmi playing it. How do you feel about the Valks versus the Leviathans here if it's a full 5-on-5?
I think what the Leviathans have done with this draft specifically, they have a lot of single target damage in their jungle and solo, but obviously those 2-3 team fight ultimates on the Atlas, the ESET, and the CERN. So they've got a good balance balance here between just finding picks and also crazy team fight ultimates. On the other hand, the Valks have the same sort of matchup where it's, you know, you have this petrify, this long distance stun, or just crazy damage into a slow.
And we've seen way too many
Oh,
petrifies the last like 2 weeks that have been doing way too much work.
Yep. It's surprising because, you know, you don't think as Medusa as this. It's more so just the damage tool or a slow or a chase down, but we've seen a ton of 3, 4-man stuns, objective steals. This Petrify, this ultimate from Medusa is going to be something to be watching out for.
Well, I'm excited to kick this off. We don't want to sit up here on Picks and Bans any longer. We're going into game number 1 of the kickoff tournaments, Leviathans versus the Valkyries.
And what a great one to start off. You got the world champions in the Leviathans against the new kids on the block here with the Valhalla Valkyries. It's J-Mac, it's Mifflin, and it's Doug here for game number 1 of our kickoff tournament. And Mifflin, all I'm going to say is, man, I'm finally excited to see some top-level Atlas play. You know, he's kind of the one guy I've been dialing in a lot on these last couple of weeks of competitive play, going, man, where has this god been? Nobody but Hurrywind over in the SCC level was picking him up at this time. And now we get our first real competitive look at this god in the duo lane.
Yeah, I'm really excited. He is, by and large, just a true support. Has phenomenal setup tools, defense shred to help out your team. Some of the best CC lockdown in the game. Very versatile CC lockdown as well. You can toss out that first ability, then pull them in. You can pull them in for yourself, throw them at your allies. I'm really excited to see how Rongu pilots this god. I will say, though, when I saw some of the changes that Atlas has received throughout the last couple of months, I really thought this god would find a home in the soul lane. He does so much damage. We might see Rongu go for a bruiser style of play here.
For now, he's going to use that dash to go an aggressive slow down Gamma and put the hurt on this duo lane. And it's always interesting seeing kind of where that first level of priority goes for these Atlases, whether it be that unburden, that first ability to throw out there, or does he go in for the charge for that one? It will be, at least in Rongu's case here, does pick up that charge at level 1. But now they're level 2. Doesn't matter what he can pick up. He can now go for CC or give some that extra clear. And I think also talking in this duo lane, the Cernos, we've seen a lot of it at the SCC level. I think it was the European squads back even during the SPL qualifiers that really brought this god into the limelight.
Yeah, I think Charlie does a really good job highlighting why we're starting to see this god a little bit more so. But one major change, and I don't think it's talked about enough, is that ultimate now does damage to minions. That is massive during the laning phase. Very often, we would see in the past, Cernunos would throw out the ultimate, connect it onto an enemy god, and then you just have a pig hiding behind archers, and there's not much you can do about it. No longer the case. That ultimate will clear out the majority of the wave, as long as you're able to connect a Bramble Blast beforehand, and after that, it's pretty easy to lock down someone who's polymorphed.
Shinto, a bit of danger, but he's got the silence, got a Spirit Ball to stun out Benny. A blink in from Panatom will chase him in with the turtle form. Benny knocked up. Benny falling low, but Panatom doesn't quite have the damage. Needs the pin. Will find it. First blood goes to the Leviathan's jungle.
You got to put some respect on that Erlong Shen early on. And this is an Erlong that has not gone for that complete early aggression. This is not a Mannequin Scepter. So even getting that early lead is going to do so much more for him. Because in the late game, this Erlong isn't going to fall off nearly as hard thanks to that Eye of the Jungle.
Over into the solo lane. I'm already getting flashbacks. I see Yarkor on a Camazotz, and I'm thinking Game 3 Worlds Finals, how this man got down to like 20-something health and then nearly full health himself back up. Got a triple kill. So it's a little dangerous giving the MVP of Worlds one of his best gods back. But for these early solos, it's not going to be an easy task for a Camazotz to kill a Cerberus.
Yeah, no, I think that lane is mostly about who's going to rotate first, who's going to make their way in towards these mid 3v3s. Going to look back now at how Panatom has the easiest setup of his life. Just walks in, your leaps down, connects the knock-up, and then waits it out, connects that pin right as BitiQue's about to walk into that tower, just confirming the last bit of that damage. Great play from the jungler of the Leviathans. But bringing up the soul lane, it really is about those relics. We see teleport early on for Aquarius, so he can get involved in these team fights elsewhere on the map a little bit earlier on. But talk about Camazotz, it's a largely pretty mobile god. There's a reason we generally see him in the jungle.
Panatom goes in aggressive again, doesn't find anything this time. Talking about relics though, Rongu has gone for a set of purification beads of his own here. No CC into the kick, going against the Bastet, maybe no surprise. Opposite side here, Gamma has picked up a more traditional support item, or support relic, I should say here, going for that tier 1 shell.
Yeah, the shell is just such a good relic, man. It could go in towards the Phantom Shell, don't necessarily need it in this matchup, but it's versatile. It gives you a lot more survivability in these team fights. Gamma's not really worried about his ability to close gap. He's also not overly concerned, I think, about some of the targeting that he will receive from the Leviathan. Sure, Rongyu can pick him up, but if you're going on Ganesh, he gives himself additional protections and that Ohm. He can shred your defense, slow, has a dash to escape. So I think going for a little bit more of a team fight relic going to help him out a fair bit. Whereas the Leviathans are forced to go towards beads because they've got the Kirmi situation on the other side. Anytime you're against a Bastet or a Fenrir, you need that relic to survive the early.
Kirmi, speaking of him, standing around the jungle right now, maybe wants to make a rotation in, see if one of those CCs, a dash, gets used. Rongyu does get silenced out of the gravity pull first time around. Second time around is good to hold Wowie in place. Some big damage coming from the dual lane. And Zapman throws out that ult but doesn't find anything from it.
Surprised that Kirmi doesn't engage there. I mean, your dual lane's still level 4 to be sure, but Zapman whiffs the ultimate. Kirmi's nearby. They're already playing on your tower line. I believe Rongyu had used the dash as well. Could have been an opportunity to at least force out some of those beads, but instead, the Valhalla Valkyries going to keep it a little bit slower pace here. Wait for some of that late game scaling to come their way. I can't argue with it, but I would have liked to see that Bastet get involved.
We are seeing a Blackthorn Hammer. First item here out of Yarkor. Saw some nerfs coming into Season 9, but with this 9.3 patch, did get a slight buff now, back up to 30 power onto this item. And I was curious as to see if we were going to see this item come back as one of the more standard jungler starts. Maybe if you are just going for a little bit of extra damage, though.
Yeah, I think Blackthorn's just in a really good spot, man, especially for some of these guys that really do facilitate these HP builds, but 30 power is just enough, I'd argue, to say, hey, the rest of those stats are really, really good. Might as well pick up that relic, or item, rather. Aquarius, though, I was expecting a Jade Emperor's Helm in that first slot, considering some of the buffs that had received recently, but instead, we're going for the Legion. Still a lot of power, still a little bit of survivability, and he's already inherently getting some of that lifesteal / healing away from Yarkor. I think Aquarius is just fine. Gonna have a good deal more kill pressure, I'd argue, if you can get Kirmi to rotate over.
Yeah, man, this Legion Helm has become the hottest pick for just about any magical user that basically isn't the support at this point. They're one of the only ones not actually grabbing this item up here. But a slow paced early. I mean, we got our first blood on the side of the Leviathans, but since then, it's been relatively quiet throughout the map here. Kirmi is really falling behind on some of his jungle farm, though. Level 6 versus level 8 on Panatom.
Panatom is used to just fighting for scraps in general, so now when he's allowed to play aggressively in the enemy jungle, he's going to find a good deal of farm. And Kirmi has been playing a slow pace. It's reminiscent of what we talked about just a moment ago, where he's hovering around that duo lane. That was 30 seconds hovering near his own tier 1 tower in duo and didn't really get much.
Panatom, blink in, taunt to the 9 turns blessing. Kirmi goes with the ult but doesn't find anything. Just wants to secure that ult, or that farm of his own. And ulting from Rongyu does clip Kirmi, doesn't really do a whole lot of damage this early on, but Kirmi gets his farm, and that's important, but he's still going to lose out on a little bit of it.
Man, that is so annoying. And this is one of the answers to Bastet. Sure, she is oppressive in a gank situation. In a team fight, she could displace you incredibly easy. But as far as the 1v1 is concerned, you're not winning those.
Zapman turned around and took that Petrify. Very risky. Speaking of riskier, Aquarius up against 3 does find the stun on Panatom, but Rongyu will hold on to that tower. Pulls Aqua in, pin from Panatom is good.
Yikes.
And the slows to lock him down. Panatom strikes again.
The Leviathans are just choosing their spots so well on the map. Zapman in some trouble here. Gamma not going to commit too much to try and chase that one out. Thought maybe we'd see the Dharmic Pillars dropped, but every single time the Leviathans get aggressive, it's them saying, hey, I know we have the numbers advantage here. They're forcing fights in the back camps. We see that Kirmi is immediately forced out by Panatom on his own. So what does Panatom say to his team? Hey, that jungler isn't going to be here. Let's go ahead and dive solo. Kirmi's either in base or hovering mid trying to pick up farm or going left. He's certainly not here. And the Leviathans take notice, they take the solo laner, and they take a massive lead just 8 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2,000 gold and XP up for the Leviathans, and I had to take a look over at Zapman's build for a moment because he ate that Petrify face first, got down to like 150, 200 health maybe, then was already back to half by the time we panned back over. He's gone for a first item Aussie right after that death stall. That is not the usual start that we see from Hunters.
No, it isn't. Maybe he's just hedging his bet, saying that CERN's first ability, the changing the seasons, will give him that a little bit of additional power, maybe some penetration if he needs, or even double dip on lifesteal. I like this itemization for him. There's really no trade that's going to be good for Wowie.
Pull in by Rongyu. Dharmic Pillars and the Grasp of Death now from BitiQue will only lock down Panatom. Panatom is going to go right back in. Ultimate in from the support, not quite enough. Panatom, though, is the one to grab it. It's a killing spree to start the game for the jungler. Leviathans off to a tear already.
They really are, man. I thought those rings would weigh their hands down at least a little bit, you know, slow them down. Seems to not be the case here. The Leviathans are in peak form and going for an early objective. The Valhalla Valkyries, they're privy to it. They've got Oracle Vision.
Gold Fury down to half. Gamma and Wowie are here.
That's
Wowie,
it.
though, has got to use the Petrify if he wants to seal it, but it's too little too late. They at least get one out of there. Panatom does go down to BitiQue, but it's the Leviathans with the Gold Fury.
Zatman drops the ultimate, trying to peel out for Panatom. Does connect, but not in time. That Erlang Shen will trade out his life, and that is a large bounty over to the Valhalla Valkyries. Every single kill has gone to Panatom so far.
Zatman's got a box out against two, but now he's got some backup with
Yikes.
Rongyu. Rongyu does pick up Wowie, throws him in, trembled in place, and the slow in from that Astrolabe is keeping Wowie down, but Gamma has got separated and taken out. Zatman can finally put himself on the board.
So can I get a look at Shinto's level priority here? That Spirit Ball did a lot of damage from this E-set. Yeah, maxed out first. He is swinging for the fences. I'm talking upwards 400, maybe 500 damage at this point. And speaking of survivability, E-set's got it with that damage mitigation and the ultimate. Also's got it just from the build. It goes in towards that Celestial Legion Helm early on. So that poke play style that Kirmi would love to play, where it's just pounce claw, gonna be harder to execute.
Panatom in danger here. BitiQue with the big burst on the mid lane. Mage will find another kill onto Panatom. So far, BitiQue's been the one finding the big success on the damage department for the Valhalla Valkyries here. 2 up for him. Will keep his team alive here, though. If we're still looking at the goal, the Leviathans with that Fury earlier, still holding on to that lead.
They are. The Valkyries are in a position now where maybe they could look towards that Pyromancer. Never mind. BitiQue's just about completely oob. Gonna have to go back to base here. So this could be a small win for the rookies to the league trying to steal away those Scorpions. But we're not completely worried just yet if you're a Valhalla Valkyries fan. 3,000 gold is essentially that indicator that I like to say is, all right, things are looking tough. If we can slow it down, it's just fine. Once you get to that 5,000 mark, that's where team fights really start to favor the other side. So the Valhalla Valkyries need to take notice. All right, we got to start controlling the macro. Let's not give away any of these objectives. The real answer, in my mind, is stop letting Shinto do whatever he wants. Shinto has gone untouched in the majority of these team fights. If you can force circle protection before the objective, the Leviathans simply won't go towards the objective. That is one easy way to get proactive and limit what these veterans are trying to do.
Rongyu wants to keep going for these pulls, but that Ohm out of Gamma on the Ganesh is at least slowing him down, to say the very least here. And I know we were getting some level priority on Shinto, and we can see how much damage he's swinging for. Rongyu going for a pincer maneuver. Gamma is just getting soloed by this mage. Dharmic Pillar is through, but the pull in by Rongyu. And another Spirit Ball. Gamma is going to go down to the circle of protection out of Shinto. Kirmi, goodbye, not a chance to stay in this fight.
Man, the Leviathan, Shinto's just doing it on his own at this point. Gamma did not have the proper response there. Once he takes that initial burst of damage, it's dash out time. It's not dash in, not at this kind of deficit. Now the Atlantis Leviathans have officially pushed themselves to that gold lead that I was so concerned about not even 20 seconds ago. The Valhalla Valkyries, they're going to need to mount a defense somewhere on the map. They can't keep allowing the Leviathans to choose where these fights are happening.
Doug, if we can we get a look at Rongyu here? I'm curious as to what his level priority is on this Atlas, because it feels like his dash is swinging hard. He actually did max that dash first. Curious, though, because we do see kind of that back and forth of, do you max the dash first to get that big burst? Do you go for that Astrolabe? But it does seem like this support Rongyu wants to get that big burst dash.
Look, I think it's like 80% of the time you want to max the dash, all right? You're using Astrolabe mainly for just facilitating kills, applying that slow, getting some effective CC. Whereas that dash, the burst damage, is deceptive, especially if you start to get some power rolling through, and that's exactly what Rongyu has done early on in this build. Sure, it's more so a bruiser item Pridwin picked up for the support of the Leviathans, but even then, that scaling, this dash is probably doing upwards of like 350. Which is a lot at this portion of the game.
It's a ton. Zatman takes the 1v1 up against Wowie. Will turn away from the Petrify, but then Panatom sneaks self in, takes that kill away from Zatman, and we'll put a 7th one now on the board for the Leviathans.
It's just a completely different pacing. For the Smite fans at home that have been watching the SCC where the Valhalla Valkyries had been dominating, this pace is so much faster. The Leviathans brought the fight early and have not let off, and the Valhalla Valkyries have not found their footing since that initial skirmish. There are some changes on the map now. It takes a little bit longer to steal away these flowers, so Rongyu going to be hovering for a good while, but who's going to step up and stop him?
Well, Kyrmi's going to try, but Kyrmi is only a level up on Rongyu and is doing basically no damage to him at this point. BitiQue in danger by Panatom will trade out in a 1-for-1. It's Kyrmi who gets the credit for the kill onto Panatom. But at this point, I mean, Panatom level 14 on this Erlong Shen, 6 kills to his name, and you got Shinto as backup right here on his level 16 E set.
That's
the
quick.
Leviathans have complete control of this map.
Shinto's been allowed to free farm the entire time. That's the MO of the Leviathans since day one. Ever since the Seguin days, it's, hey, can we get Shinto some farm? And the answer's generally been yes, and so far, it's still yes. 16-14 up against BitiQue. Shinto is massive.
I almost wanted that Spirit Ball to hit just to see how much it would do to
Would've been a
a
lot.
non-tank out here. I mean, it was quarter healthing Gamma earlier on. Got to be getting close to half health, especially 3 levels up against Kyrmi. Kyrmi has really been struggling to get this farm in the jungle. He's been falling behind almost since minute 1. He's been able to catch up to Panatom thanks to a couple of nice breaks and getting a couple of kills here. But outside of that, man, the real deficit is coming from this mid lane, 2 levels down there, a level and a half-ish on each of the dual lane as well. I mean, Leviathans are just farming more efficiently right now.
They are, and it's all around their mid 3v3 / dual lane side of the map. Yarkor is about even with Aquarius, but we're not concerned about the solo lane just yet. Neither one of these guys has rotated out, which means that the fights generally will be on that left-hand side, and that is where the lead lies for the Leviathans. That's where the objective is as well. Zatman has gone for crit very early on, so you better believe this Oni Fury is going to fall pretty fast.
Oni Fury is pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point. As soon as the Leviathans decided it's time to take the Fury, it's going away. Oni Fury goes down very swiftly. Gold now up to 5,500 for it and the experience. The Leviathans have amassed here. Gamma can't even attempt to try to walk through that lane because there's an entire barricade of Leviathans waiting for him.
This could be a tier 1 tower push here for the Leviathans. They've got that kind of lead. Kyrmi hovering nearby, as is Wowie. It's our first engagement.
Gamma not going to get pulled in by that gravity pull. Kyrmi is here on the side, but Panatom will try and chase him out. Luckily for
Good
Kyrmi, he's
ults.
got some backup with his solo laner. Aquarius gets taunted back in by Panatom, and Yarkor will leap on out. Shinto throwing out that silence just to make sure that path gets cut off.
But meanwhile, in mid, a skirmish was happening, and Zatman able to drop BitiQue down to just below half HP. Should open the door to take down this tier 1 tower. Kyrmi loses out on his own ultimate, so the ability to displace anyone from the Leviathans is lost out. Aquarius, though, still hovering nearby, has Blink and Stygian Torment available. It's just whether or not he can find his placement, because the Leviathans are just on a death march right now. Rongyu, no respect on this tower line, just stepping up. No way they go for a tier 2 this early, though, right?
They very well could, but with all 5 of the Valks here and not all of the Leviathans, they won't be able to. Instead, Panatom split push the right tier 1 tower, and that Pyromancer is just about to come back up. So Leviathans could just march there, or maybe just march right in for an extra kill of their own. Beats by Zatman, some big damage onto Gamma. Aqua, though, finds 3
Massive.
with the ultimate and throws it through, but Spirit Ball is keeping the team alive. No, Zatman goes down. BitiQue credited to the kills. Gamma yanked back in by that gravity pull, but not much more beyond there. But the Valkyries have at least been able to strike back.
The 3-time feeling himself a little bit too much. Pre-beats, dashes forward saying, hey, I don't care, I'm ahead. I might be able to just shred Gamma. Simply not the case. Dharmic Pillars is dropped, and Aquarius says, oh, word. This turn doesn't have beads anymore. Stygian Torment drops him on the electric fence. The Valhalla Valkyries strike back and take an objective. Not the cleanest Pyromancer I've ever seen, but still something back for the Chaos team. Close up that gap just a little bit. We still have 20 seconds left on Zatman's respawn. Could be an opportunity for the Valkyries to try and find something else on the map, control the macro, the neutral farm, even potentially step up to this tier 1 mid tower. BitiQue closed up that level gap with Shinto a fair bit, but instead, it's oracles for Wowie. It's going to be mid camps on the right-hand side, and the Valhalla Valkyries happy with this small win.
Try and close up some of this lead that they've been losing to up against the Leviathans here. Now only 5,000. Hasn't gone down much.
Only 5,000.
Only 5,000. It was 5,500, so it's definitely been worse. But at least slowing things down a little bit and getting a kill for themselves, probably the most important thing to give them that little boost of confidence. Like, yeah, these guys aren't immortal at this point. We may be down, but we're not out of the game just yet. Kyrmi up against 1 shouldn't have anything to worry about since it is just Rongyu here. But talk about Rongyu. Second relic picked up after the beads. a fully upgraded Bracer of Brilliance immediately out here. A massive damage influx to this team.
And getting that so early on is going to help you out a lot in just saving gold going forward. It acts as a sentry ward, so you're stripping away vision, you're giving your team vision. The earlier you can pick up this relic, if you do decide to go for Bracer, the more value you get.
BitiQue's got a beads away from the 9 turns blessing. That pin puts Benny down to the half health threshold. Shinto, level 19 on this E-set, not even 19 minutes in, should be hitting that 20 before 20 at the rate that he's going here. And like you're saying earlier, I mean, this has just been the game plan of the Leviathans forever. I mean, there's a reason that Shinto was top GPM by a mile compared to anybody else in the SPL last year.
Yeah, surprised that Shinto even allows Panatom to have those back camps, man. We got to talk to him during the Hanging with the Pros day, and Shinto said, hey, back camps belong to me. Those are kind of just mine. And Panatom solemnly standing nearby just says, oh, yes, sir. Yeah, whatever you say, sir. And that generally is the game plan here. But I suppose being level 19 already, Shinto's allowed some splitting on the rest of the map. We even see Panatom got off to a quick start, 6-3-1, but that farm split so efficient to go through everyone else, he's maintained just about even with Kirmi, who's 1-2-1, maybe about a half-level lead for the jungler of the Leviathans.
And even though we see BitiQue here, 20, 30 GPM behind, that doesn't seem like a whole lot, but you take that 30 over the course of 20 plus minutes here. I'm not going to try and do the math, and as this game goes on, those
600.
numbers... Okay, well, I won't do it, but Mifflin will do it. And Gamma will drop Atomic Pillar. Zapman gets picked up by the Cat, has to beads away quickly. Our core does have that lead, but a big grasp of death only hits the solo laner, locks the team down. Spirit Ball into the backline, doesn't find much. And a quick disengage by the Leviathans to get themselves out.
Heavy commitment from the Valhalla Valkyries, costing them 3 of their own ultimates, only all onto Yarkor, who is playing Camazotz, who can heal himself up a fair bit, already benefiting from the passive of Caduceus Shield, means that Vampiric Bat's going to do a lot for him here. Taking away the Bat out of Hell, though, is going to make it a lot harder for the Leviathans to find some of these dives. That said, I don't think it's going to be that hard as long as that fight comes soon. The Valhalla Valkyrie is still waiting on some of those major cooldowns.
Yu doesn't get to pick anybody up with the gravity pull this time. Finds Gamma the second time around, and Gamma is just gone. Wrong Yu credited to the kill. Circle of protection won't save Zapman, but he'll make sure that Wrong Yu can get some of that health back. Wowie low, Wowie's got Aegis and beads, but right as that Aegis expires, Shinto gets him with the Spirit Ball.
Kirmi, BitiQue, and Aquarius, the sole remaining members of the Valhalla Valkyries on retreat, and Aquarius might not count himself amongst them soon.
Thrown against the wall, will find the leap, but a better pin, and the gravity right after by Wrong Yu will take down the solo laner, and I'm not even sure if this tier 2 is enough of a safe haven for Benny and Kirmi. Thankfully for them, the Leviathans will show a little mercy.
Yeah, thankfully for them, the Fury's still up, or the Leviathans very well could have kept up that dive. Primal going to fall down, Yarkor acting as goaltender just in case. I don't think he needed to, though. No way. BitiQue and Gamma, we're going to step up aggressive here, and 21 minutes in, the Leviathans will put another neutral objective on their belt. Gold lead now completely out of control. Experience means less and less as the clock ticks onward. And looking at the game state, most people are within 1 or so levels of their opposition, barring Gamma, who is probably going to be pretty far behind for a good deal of time going forward. That said, take a peek at the relics. You still have a good deal of beads available to the Valhalla Valkyries. Blink's still up for Kirmi, beads still up for BitiQue. You still have the Ankh for Gamma, which means that if the Leviathans do want to go towards Fire Giant shortly, as I'm sure they would love to, it's not a foregone conclusion. The Valhalla Valkyries have still got some fight left in the tank.
It's going to be a Relic Dagger out of Wrong Yu as a 4th item here. I mean, talk about Gamma being a little bit behind itemization-wise. He's a full item plus down at this point, but it's Heart Ward after the Prid win. Now, we haven't been seeing nearly as much of this season, but with some of those extra glyphs thrown through, has been seeing a little bit more popularity. But most importantly, going back to that Relic Dagger means that Bracer that Wrong Yu has gone towards is going to be able to drop even quicker. I mean, you already get the cooldown reset if it goes down. Now chip another 30 seconds away from this Relic. He's going to have that thing up almost every minute.
Yeah, and that is a free sentry ward every single time. Sure, you get power, you get some movement speed. I don't care about that part. It's that free sentry. It's just stripping vision. If these fights go long, we see a lot of these fights fought over vision around these neutral objectives. Who's got how many sentries in their back pocket? Only one team's got a recharging sentry right now. So the longer these fights go, slowly in a war of attrition, the Leviathans will take more and more control of the map. Or they might just do it all in one fell swoop. Fire Giant's burning so fast.
These big crits out of Zapman, plus the Circle of Protection. There's no chance this Fire Giant goes to the Valkyries. That one goes down swiftly to the Leviathans. Panatom low, that ultimate will heal him back up, but Aqua is stuck inside
happens?
that Gamma Ray burst. Zapman will get one, but Kirmi will trade out and take out Zapman on his own. Wrong U dashing through, Benny by himself up against two, and he will go down. Shinto with the big damage, and now it's just Gamma to fight up against them. But look at the damage that Shinto and Yorkor outputted. Gamma will not go anywhere. It's a double to Shinto and a deicide for the Leviathans.
I think Shinto landed about 4 spirit balls throughout the duration of that team fight, and everyone was doing like 50% of whoever connected with. Upwards of like 4,000 damage output from this E-set alone in that engagement. The Valhalla Valkyries crumble under that aggression, and the Leviathans with Fire Giant on 4, barring their ADC, might just go for the end here.
They could here. It's still 12 seconds before Wowie comes back up. A couple of towers will make this Titan a little bit tankier. Wowie does have ult as soon as that comes back up for him, but he's still 3 seconds out. Titan is going down quickly. Half health. Wowie on the respawn now. Will throw that Petrify. Does hit quite a few. Does some big damage, but Circle of Protection is back up. That's going to be game number 1 going to the Leviathans.
J-Mac, the analysis, I think, is simple and sweet in game 1. World champions for a reason. These guys came out to play. Another day in the office, real casual, but that was incredibly fast. Well played, concise aggression, phenomenal team presence, objective control. Every buzzword you could throw out about something good in a Smite game, the Leviathans have got for themselves.
I mean, minute number 1, Leviathans were going in crazily. I mean, maybe not exactly at that 1 minute mark here, but Panatom starting it off in mid lane, which is the point that was talked about
Like
so much
wave.
on the desk. Need to be able to shut down Shinto, need to be able to keep him behind. Well, when Panatom shows up, it's all clean there from mid lane.
It really is, man. I wonder, I can't wait to see the post-game stats. I'm not sure how much damage Shinto took, full stop. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like less than 8K throughout the entirety of that game.
Crazy game 1 here from the world champions. They take game number 1. Can they take the set? We'll find out right after this.
Problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage, I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Bonus progression is all that I wanted. The phone and affection, I summon it double. Cause I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage, I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Progression is all that I wanted. A bow and affection, I summon and dub it. Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Don't hang with a line for nothing. I see that we different, you riding, I double. My double discussions on bragging about hundreds. Don't go to your places, I know that they sunken. Don't call me your brother, I barely could trust you. I talked to a shorty, she bagging the bucket. And I'ma need all of my dollars on corporate, so hand me the money, I give you the pie. I'ma give all of my people a portion to build them a fortune on flipping the ride. I can't be mixing when iffy the vibe. And 40 on 50 is really the time. Why are you all on my phone like you want me? Like you wasn't pushing the kid to the side. I don't know you. Thinking I'm blind. Cross on my crosses and doubt on my eyes. Done with your efforts, I'm dealing with pressures. I know it's a lesson, that's word of the wise. Dubbing the mixes I'm mixing. I know I've been missing. I needed some personal time. All the pictures, dimensions. I don't what you did this. I mean it, I'm staying inside. Check out. Blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something. That's why I ain't out my mind. Yeah. So lost, where do I go? I was in the chase, caught a flat on road. It was all love, X no O. I was feeling rich, but we turned out broke. Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demons take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old. I can't believe that it was real. It was back in late December when I did it. I just wish I could forget. Cause I hate how much I love it, oh I hate how I just love to catch a feel. Yeah. I've been wasting my time. I don't know why I can't get you out of my mind. And if I find a way to get it, when I do it, I can live it and forget it. Cause I hate how much I love you, or I hate how you just put me in my feelings.
Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demon take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old.
Welcome back, everyone, here to the Analyst Desk. And of course, we just watched the Leviathans take their first win. I'm not allowing myself to use this, but it feels this is a dangerous power to have in my hands right now. And so I'm going to set it down, Charlie, because I know it was really loud a second ago. I accidentally, maybe a little bit, blew it into the microphone. Maybe hurt his ears a little bit, just a little bit, though. The Leviathans end up winning this one.
Right.
And they are pretty consistent. Like they get ahead pretty early on, and they just kind of maintain that lead. They control Gold Furies, they control the objective play, and they just kind of keep the Valkyries boxed away from them.
Right. I think Panatom found his success early on this Erlong pick. That's pretty much what it does. Erlong very strong early. Also a pretty solid late game boxer. A little bit of greatness there. Obviously, BitiQue was able to find some solid picks. You know, Kirmi was playing quite well, but I think Leviathans just as a unit, Shinto climbing ahead, as you touched on. He's very good at farming, and it showed through there. He got very far ahead, and
Yes.
it looked pretty devastating.
I think it was very interesting to watch. I mean, we had mentioned the Erlong Shin, I think, early on. It was the first pick, and whenever you have something that gets picked up that early, it has to show up. I think you had even highlighted, didn't go for the Mannequin Scepter, which is typically what we have seen in the past for Erlongs as starters. And it didn't seem to slow him down that much, Chelly. He got off to a good start, and he was almost everywhere. And when it came in conjunction, as you had highlighted, with a very heavy lead here for Shinto, it just seemed to all the stars lining up there for the Leviathans.
Yeah, they just had so much lockdown CC, obviously Rongyu on this Atlas pick that we have not seen enough, and obviously now we are going to start seeing it very much so. Just so much lockdown potential on this Guardian. I mean, he's just able to pick you up, throw you around with that gravity well. It's very disruptive, and it's very annoying to deal with.
And this is just, I mean, again, it just feels clinical when you get to watch it from this angle, and I think that's a really good silence, like good beads. You just get to see some interesting plays from this angle where you just maintain that amount of control. And you had mentioned it wrong, look, I can't think of anyone scarier to showcase an Atlas, right? Like, hey, we're gonna give you a god that lets you just control the other team, and like that's his bread and butter, baby.
Yeah.
He's like, cool, I'm gonna pull him in with the two, I'm gonna pick him up, I'm gonna make sure that everybody feels uncomfortable throughout all of this game.
Right.
And he was just unrelenting in terms of force.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate as well, just being able to shred the protections of the Valkyries as a whole. Just anytime you're in that Gamma Burst, you are getting completely shredded, taking a little bit of damage. The damage is not what's going to get you, though. It's that prod shred after the fact, just making sure the whole team just, displaced, shredded their protections. It's a very difficult thing to team fight into, obviously. And if I'm the Valks right now, I'd probably look to be banning that away.
It's going to be, I think, fun to watch how they adapt from Game 1 to Game 2. That's honestly the biggest testament. You got a best of 3, right? So right now, this is going to be the do or die, at least of the initial kickoff tournament here for the Valkyries. And how they adapt to everything will be interesting. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what do you change. I mean, maybe you can drop the emoji ban, but also Wrong You exists. That's You know what? I'm glad I'm not Sharks. I don't have to make that decision. They do.
Yeah,
and I don't want to.
In my head, you know, maybe you could get away with the Zeus, getting rid of the Zeus ban instead of what you were. I mean, obviously they banned the Zeus, so maybe just letting that Zeus through. Maybe it does a little bit less than the ESET with all that lockdown. I mean, it's a completely different play style, right? Where ESET's silencing you constantly. You have the circle protection, this crazy objective shred, also this no play zone where no one wants to step in there at all.
Yeah.
So maybe, you know, taking the Zeus and saying, hey, this is a little bit of a different style pick, more crazy damage, but not so much lockdown and CC, could be a little bit different.
Well, we're going to be jumping into picks and bans here for game number 2 pretty soon. Valkyries will be flopping sides over to the first pick. So that is going to make a hefty difference. I mean, last time it was this, you know, Erlang Shin first pick initial. And so the Valkyries having that power do get to try and shift things up if they so please. Zeus is still their first ban. The Kleena comes back from the other side on the Leviathans. And that's where things get interesting once again, is when you look at, Zeus, Shinto's scary on anybody, but this says something, I think, about what the Zeus could be in this current meta, that the Valks are worried about it. The ESET gets the respect ban up here, and it's starting to feel like the Leviathans are going, well, at least experiencing what they're used to at this point, where Shinto might get 3, 4, potentially even 5 full bans towards him.
Yeah, and it looks like the Leviathans are going to take Erlang off the table. Obviously, they are not at first pick anymore, so they're not going to let that one through. A lot of early pressure. It found first and second blood last game, so even if Panatom's not piling it, this pick is definitely solid, just making sure no one gets that. Sticking to the Kleena. Obviously, I think it's just one of those things where they don't really want to try to play against it. It's one of those picks where it could be very oppressive, not really any counterplay when she's in the wall, like I mentioned. So just sticking to that, probably a solid idea. And it looks like they are going to take a page out of your book and say, you know what? Bring us that Yemoja if you want to.
You know what? I'm on the fence about it, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
I honestly can't tell you. Like, my mind is saying, 140-second cooldown on the ult.
Right.
It's just such a long time to not have those walls. Like, it should theoretically be easy to like try and get them out early and then like bait a team fight afterward.
Right.
But then, as you highlighted earlier, I think of Riptide, I think of healing, I think of the stun, and it's like, man, you know what? Maybe it wasn't just the walls that I was worried about anyway. I guess we'll get to see it. There is, of course, healing nerfs that have come through for Season 9 again. So Yemoja, out of combat at least, not going to be hitting anywhere near as hard. We'll see, I guess, from the Valkyries, if in combat she's going to be hitting as hard. If you can't ban her, pick her. And that is going to be the option here for Gamma, stripped away from the Leviathans at first pick, so it's got to perform pretty well here.
Yeah, when I saw the Leviathans ban that Circuit in that slot, I was pretty sure that's where they were headed, because if you are gonna, you already prioritized banning the Yemoja last game. You said, hey, we do not want Rangyu on this pick. Now we're not going to ban it. They didn't ban it. You only have one option in that sense. Say, hey, Gamma, we're throwing you the Yemoja. Good luck, man. Hopefully you can do with this ult what Ronnie's
You're
going to
get it. I don't know if you want it, but you're getting it.
Yep. I think that's a solid start.
That's Tiamat. Again, something you should be worried. They're world champions. If they're going to lock something in, they're going to be worried about it. I'm just going to make this blanket statement now so that I stop saying that phrase. And we get the Camazotz returning from last time around. So a little bit of maybe not a fresh look here for Hardcore, who's going to just continue playing what he has been playing. But the Tiamat, something we got to see banned a whole ton last year.
Oh, yeah.
But whenever it was in Shinto's hands, it was just frightening gameplay. I mean, almost complete dominance in the mid lane.
Yeah, anything, again, that I'm going to harp on this point a lot as well. Anything that really has 3 to 4 damaging abilities that can use this double flat pen start that we've seen so much is going to be a very solid pick right now in the mid lane. Tiamat has plenty of abilities that are going to be proccing that on cooldown, but not the build that Shinto opted to go, at least last game. We're going for the more tanky sort of ESET style build with the helm and the Void Stone, just trying to be a tanky menace. Tiamat already extremely tanky in that quadrupedal stance where she can go into lots of mitigations with her scale stack, so if he did just run back the same build, I just imagine he's even harder to kill at that point.
Look into my eyes.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. Personally, I would never want to deal with that. That sounds like it, well, it's just too much. It's too much work to try and burn through. It's going to be a lot over there. Camazotz also known pretty well for being able to get out of really sticky situations. They get the Cerberus Medusa, something worth talking about. So Medusa Yemoja is going to be the duo lane here for the Valkyries. And it's going up against at least a Bacchus on the other side. And you were just talking last game, it was banned out actually by the Leviathans, and we've seen it over the last few weeks. Just the pressure that like a frenzy early Bacchus will bring to a lane it's a lot to handle.
Yeah, if we had a nickel every time we saw a Bacchus pop frenzy, use the belch, get a stun, get a kill, we'd have a few nickels, at least
Yeah.
three, at least
At
three.
least 3.
Yeah, so
which isn't a lot, but
no.
it at least happened 3 times.
It's enough that we should bring it up at this
Yeah.
point. So yeah, the Bacchus definitely a strong pick right now. Kind of came out of nowhere, but once this frenzy start came into fruition, it was just right now he's a very strong level 2 character. He can clear the wave very well. He's got a lot of mobility, and his early game is pretty solid. So Bacchus has just been a very strong pick or ban type of character at the moment. Obviously, they're going to be banning away the Gilgamesh and the Persephone, so not wanting Benny on that Persephone
Yeah.
again. Good amount of lockdown. He was able to find even a solo kill on Panatom at one point in that game. So the few shimmers of greatness the Valks did center from this Persephone pick that Benny was on.
And it makes sense to try to control it. The Gilgamesh as well. Again, maybe something that it feels like in my mind is like on the fringe of whether or not he's going to be like a top pick still this year. But I think Kirmi plays it really well, and you don't want Kirmi to be comfortable if you're trying to find the win here. It's Kernanos and the Daji on the other side. The Kernanos getting the respect band at this point. They recognize, you know what, Zap beat the Medusa with this. We're at least going to make him change it up. And so that's going to be potentially even the last pick for the Leviathans going over towards Zapman. They're hovering a Nemesis right now. But the Daji feels like a very smart ban as well, just to not only something that Panatom plays incredibly well, but Medusa could get out of it with her ult. I guess Cerberus probably has a window in there, but it feels like that's indicative not only of the skill on the other side, but specifically what they might be wanting to pick up, not necessarily matching too well into the Daji.
Yeah, where Ares is sort of the pick where you kind of just pick, oh, they don't have any CC immunity, we can go this
Feel
Ares
my
home, there's no
wrath.
escape, pull them back in. Daji has insane damage on top of that powerhouse stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it isn't like a Daji style draft, you can still pick her into pretty much anything. But right now, I think Gamma would have a rough time positioning on this Shimoja with the Daji out there, obviously having to go into the purification beats if it doesn't get pulled every time, because let's be honest, Phantom's not missing those powerhouse shots. So unless you have some pretty sick Riptide jukes, I think you're going to be getting pulled back in. So smart ban there just to take that away. But it looks like we are going to see the Rama,
Yeah.
which, I mean, it is very safe. You have a lot of stall potential. The River's Rebuke comes up. You go up to the sky and you say, hey, I'm going to stay up here for a while. I'm not going to be dealing with everything down there. So Zap just wanting to play safe. Not quite the pressure that we would expect with this Bacchus draft, but hey, Rongyu's going to set up the wave, and then Zap could just play it safe and just make sure he's not getting completely dove. I think it's a solid start.
I don't know. So the Nemesis got locked in. It was just hovered there by the Leviathans for a little bit. After it gets locked in, I saw Hardcore go, come on! in the camera behind him. And we're going to be getting the patented BitiQue Raw. Again, there are a couple of people, I think, in the league that have made a name for themselves on this pick already. Just from the highlights we've seen, even at the SBL plans, I think BitiQue is going to be memorable on this pick.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a raw pick in your back pocket when you've got like a Kumba or some sort of like Naja, this crazy easy setup where you can just hit those Searing Pains off of anything. But when you're picking it into not much setup, those are the raw players that really shine. When you're just hitting those freehand raw ultimates, no sort of setup, through the wall, those are the plays that you remember. Those are the plays that stick. I will say it's going to be a little difficult into the draft specifically. I mean, you can outrun the Camazotz. You are slow immune, but that Bacchus CC, you're going to be feeling the brunt of it.
And it kind of feels like, again, you highlight like a lot of the highlight plays, but like, you know, Tiamat, Camazotz, Bacchus eventually, like, it's going to be a lot of tanky people. Like, you're going to hit, and you're going to do decent damage, but you're probably not going to be making the highlight reel this game, right? Like, you're going to get the damage out there, you're going to set things up. Maybe if Nemesis throws out her ult and Medusa, like, chunks some people down early, you'll be able to find it. But it definitely feels like this is going to be some interesting setups. Susano is the last pick here for the Leviathans, so you get all 5 of them. This is, again, another pick that has been huge for Panatom in the past, and even when it wasn't meta, he managed to make it look good, so it feels like this is going to be one that can go toe-to-toe with that Nemesis.
Yeah, it seems like any good jungler in the league right now has a Susanoo in their back pocket. They at least know how to use those auto-attack cancels. They can get the full brunt of this character's damage. I mean, but Susanoo is able to do crazy things when you can utilize his kit properly, so even if Susanoo's not in the meta, all of these top-tier junglers that know how to work this map and they can get to quick farm, they've got a Susanoo pick that can do some crazy things.
And you have people, you know, with the Riptide, you've got a jump, you've got Medusa's dash, things like that, and all of a sudden it's like, well, hey, guess what? He just found somebody who can stick to every single person on the Valkyries. It's going to make things even more complicated, I think, for them to try to escape. Ra himself, not necessarily known for his capabilities of running away. He's got that movement speed, but it only gets you so far.
Yep.
How are you feeling? Like, I want to go over to the duo lane, because we talked about this Yemoja early on. Medusa got locked in with that. The Bacchus Rom, I mean, and you had kind of highlighted some of the things Rom can bring, but like, Is that enough early pressure from Bacchus and Rom, like together, to maybe even get that first blood?
I think Medusa and Yamoja's fight right now in the early game is probably too strong, but it really just depends on how quickly you can clear, get to that wave, and then there's another coin flip in there. Do you have Frenzy? Does the enemy have Frenzy?
Yeah.
So it's how quickly you can get that wave, get to that level 2 spot, and that's where your fight really is going to be able to take off. Yamoja, not the strongest level 2 in the game, and Rama, also not the strongest, so they kind of go toe-to-toe, where Bacchus brings this pressure, Medusa brings this pressure. Rama, not so much, Yamoja, not so much, but I think personally the Bacchus is enough to make sure the Leviathans will have that wave cleared ASAP. Rama does have some pretty solid wave clear, just the fight potential is not there.
It almost feels like this weird balance where like Bacchus can leap on Medusa and they're both gonna just chunk each other, and then Yamoja can get back to Rom and they're just gonna kind of like lightly tap each other for a few levels. Yeah, maybe we'll see some spice over there in the duo lane. Maybe it'll be something spicy happen over in the mid lane. Again, I'm keeping my eyes on this Ra, despite the fact that maybe it's not against the Tiamat specifically that is going to happen. I think a good Ra shot onto the Susanoo. Who knows what'll happen? Who knows what the Valkyries have to offer here as we jump into game number 2, Leviathans versus Valks.
Valks definitely need a pick up here to take game number 2 and see if they can bring themselves back in this set up against the world champs of the Leviathans. Game 1 was a rather swift victory there for the Leviathans, to say the least. Pretty easy performance up out of here. But Mifflin, as we're jumping into game number 2, my eyes are going to be moving back towards this mid lane, especially for BitiQue, just because BitiQue's back on the Raw that kind of got him into the SPL.
Yeah, he earned the nickname Big Differ with this Raw pick, right? So I'm excited to see what he's able to bring. Consistent snipes. I don't think he's going to miss very often. My only concern for the Valhalla Valkyries and their draft this time around is their ability to transition into that mid to late game. In game 1, the Leviathans took control from minute 1. And I would argue the Valhalla Valkyries have not got that much of a stronger early game. You've got a great dual lane for pressure. Your kill presence is certainly there between Medusa and Yamoja, but Ra, not exactly the highest pressure mid laner. Nemesis going to take a couple of items before she really starts to hit her stride. So as long as the Valhalla Valkyries can survive the early, I'm with them. I'm totally fine with everything we see here. But getting to that mid-game point is no easy task, especially against the world champions.
And Zapman going for this similar style of build that he went last time, Death's Toll into a Balance Blade to start things out. So he's going to be, or Short Sword in this case for now, will be going potentially up into the Aussie that he started up last time with the Cernanos. So we'll see how it pans out now that he won't have essentially 3 forms of lifesteal just for being, just for existing on the map out here. But it won't be a frenzy from either of those supports. That was one thing that was talked about a lot with this rise of Bacchus, has been this frenzy rush. But Rongyu doesn't want to go for that one. Instead, he opts to get a very early Cursed Ankh. Get a lot of early pressure here, though, in this dual lane still.
I mean, you're always going to get that effect. As long as Yamoja is around, you are always going to be able to apply that Ankh, always get that benefit of dealing additional damage to whoever you're anti-healing. So I think you're just right to do so. It's pretty easy for him to say, hey, all right, I'm engaging, and Yamoja just can't be choosy with the heals.
Damage in the mid lane. BitiQue gets pulled in. A leap in by Shinto. BitiQue's going low, and the knock up after will be enough to take him down. First blood goes to the poison red, but Panatom is low, and Kirmi with a double dash will strike it right back.
Panatom, no respect with that positioning, just walks back up, did not have any abilities left over after that first blood going the way of the Leviathans, and a great strike back from Kirmi. Phenomenal recognition of just saying, hey, you can't stand here.
Belly flop by Rongyu. Gamma in danger. Stun will hit 2. Cursed Ankh comes out. Wowie cannot find the damage. Zapman using those minions to body block himself and stay out of the grasp of Wowie. But now, with Zap and Rongyu both low, with no minions to their name, they'll have to back themselves back up to this tier 1.
But look at the potions still available. You still have 2 for Rongyu, 1 just now popped. Zapman still has an HP pot as well. So Sustain favoring the Valhalla Valkyries by nature of having Yamoja on that side. Despite dropping both Leviathans low, I think the dual lane can stick around a little bit longer. It's not completely out of question. But that pressure that the Valkyries do establish for themselves opens up the door for just this purple buff invade attempt.
Similar to Izanami, Ram is able to clear out these minions pretty easily with his autos. Instead, it's just going to be a trade between supports and hunters, but Zapman's on the wrong side of the fight. Good belly flop, though, from Rongyu. Holds him out, and a late beads from Wowie may have just spelled the difference between a kill and a drop.
Man, Wowie just tries to walk past Rongyu, realizing, hey, I've got Viper Shot ready.
Benny?
Meanwhile, Benny in mid, before I can even break down the fight, falls down to Panatom yet again. Now Panatom back on the board, one for himself, and BitiQue lost out on his beads there as well, so he's going to be really susceptible to ganks going forward. And this was the concern around Ra. You are a largely immobile god that needs some scaling before your damage output is enough to force your opposition to respect you. At this point, BitiQue is shooting off like 200 damage with the first ability, maybe about 100 with the second, and you're not really concerned about the heal just yet. So imagine we see more of the same there. But as I was saying, had Wowie connected that lacerate, had that pre-beads, avoided the knockup from Rongu, I think Zatman's just dead there. Just a second too late on that relic, where the Valhalla Valkyries dual lane, we'd be singing their praises right now.
Instead, it is just going to be camp cleared out by Leviathan. Still sitting at even 4-4 relics. Pretty much same state here, though we'll be coming back up a little bit sooner for the Leviathans. Only a few more seconds on that cursed dong. Beads for Zapman are still down, but Panatom is here to save the day. Gamma can't find it in, but
close.
a Petrify around the corner of the wall from Wowie will find a trade out kill, support for Hunter, but Wowie in danger, needs some help. Luckily, he's got Kirmi as backup.
All Kirmi has to do is show face, and that's enough to say, hey, please stop chasing my Medusa. Wowie able to walk himself out of there and at least pick up some farm in the jungle, get some vision for himself as well. But the Leviathans, yet again, have established a pretty sizable lead throughout the early portions of this game. Arguably better, though. The Valhalla Valkyries a little bit closer than they were last time around. Experience gaps maybe the name of the game. One level in the jungle, one level in the mid. Very similar to what we saw in Game 1.
Was there a Tiamat minion trap that's in there? Kirmi just kind of stood on the side of that mid lane for a few seconds there. It must have been something that Shinto had set down, but when talk about Shinto, that first blood went his way, and he's already been able to expedite his build. You see a Divine Ruin right out the gate to answer to this double healing comp that the Valkyries have put together. And if Game 1 is any indication of how much Shinto can do with a lead, when you actually give him the first blood here in this second game, it's only going to get worse.
It could. You've got better answers to Shinto this time around, though. I mean, it's very hard to dive in ESET. Damage mitigation, a silence, a stun, additional mobility from the wing gust. So now on Tiamat, after you use that initial leap, Kirmi could just connect the ultimate and lock him down, make him a little bit slower, force out that CC immunity in the quadrupedal stance, and that opens up the door for Stygian Torment, for Gamma to line up some of these walls. Even Wowie can get aggressive. I don't think Shinto's going to have as easy a time in the backline here in these late-game team fights.
Well, Wowie's about to be dove on by 3 of the Leviathans. Zatman rolls in, but doesn't find the cripple on the shot afterwards. Panatom and Rongu, though, still sitting by in the jungle. I don't think they're going to be able to get anything here, especially with the fact that Wowie has gone back to base. So he'll save himself some trouble and pick up a Crusher first item. So not going down that same route that Zatman did in the previous game.
No, Crusher is going to give you a lot of damage early on. Aussie's helping out a lot with your sustain. You can stick around in these team fights, even look towards neutral objectives. Wowie's not talking about that. He's talking about, I'm going to dash, and I hope you just die after that. Viper Shot, Acid Spray, whatever it takes.
Well, 2v2 here. Gamma and Kirmi up against Shinto Panatom, but Panatom will eat a slice and dice. He'll teleport on out. Shinto trying to get some back harpy camp farm of his own. He will get that and manage to pick up that offering. Kirmi a little slow on the rotation to steal that one out. And we're getting close on that first obelisk stacked up here for the Leviathans. Nearly 7 minutes in. Only need one more offering and they can finally get that objective.
Yeah, hopefully the Valhalla Valkyrie is able to confirm it here on the left side and make it a little bit more interesting. Next one. Going to spawn up that scroll for either one of these teams. I'm expecting a fight to happen relatively shortly, especially considering the Valhalla Valkyries have got superior objective secure. Kirmi has similarly just hit a very nice power spike for himself with that Jotun's Wrath. This could be an opportunity where you look for that combo, where you just trust BitiQue to find that ultimate and confirm some of these kills, because the experience, while being left alone, is continually going in favor of the Leviathans. Shinto doing Shinto stuff, just taking every back camp. Panatom fighting for scraps in the jungle, but you wouldn't believe it looking at the levels, because we're about a level and a half up for Panatom, who's sitting at 9. Kirmi just now taking over to 8.
Large rotation by the Valkyries over here towards this left-hand side by the Fury. And we'll see if anything comes up from there as we go to a brief pause in the action here for these two teams. But Leviathans already with a 1K gold lead up over the Valkyries just off that first blood, get the initial bounty, and then a little bit more efficient farming. Trades out for the kills here, 3-2, at least on the side of Leviathan. So they still hold that kill lead, still hold that golden XP. Most of that, though, is just coming from that mid 2v2.
That mid 2v2 is going heavily in favor of the Leviathans. Both jungler and mid laner benefiting mightily from every single engagement that we've seen so far, but that was to be expected from P's and B's. I would expect the Tiamat and Susano to get the better end at least around that level 5 to 10 mark. Once we start approaching mid-game, third item slot, Nemesis is really going to become a threat on the map, has some decent matchups, some pretty strong 1v1s. Not against Panatom. You don't want to take that because the shield will just never work for Nemesis. But otherwise, some other targets you can look towards. This Ra that we know BitiQue is very capable of piloting. We know this guy can find game-changing ultimates, make game-changing plays on his own, will eventually hit that inflection point where he hits enough items that the ultimate is a threat, where he can start looking towards these objectives. The Valhalla Valkyries just need to bide their time.
For now, we will be able to jump right back in. Wowie already with a Petrify up on Zapman, but that roll will be able to get Zapman right back to safety. No problem, no harm, no foul, except for Rongyu, who's left in up against
That's
3.
big.
Kill goes to the Valkyries. Can they find anything on the back end for the Leviathans here? Wowie falls down to half health. Panatom charges up the Typhoon, and now that Shinto is rotated in, it's curtain calls for Wowie. He goes down. It's now 1 kill up in a trade out for the Leviathans.
BitiQue able to confirm the purple buff and put some significant damage into Panatom. That should be the stopper of the Leviathan's aggression. Had that ultimate just connected with purple, wouldn't be surprised if we see the Chaos team just start barreling forward. Say, oh, BitiQue's isolated in the purple buff. We just saw the ultimate drop. Let's try and chase him out, at least force a relic. Instead, though, BitiQue finds the collat and stops that fight in its tracks. The Valhalla Valkyries doing a very good job of mitigating loss on the map right now, rotating in, turning these fights into trades, confirming their own buffs, and it's reflected. Golden experience, a lot closer than what we saw in Game 1.
It's interesting that Benny is the one who's holding the scepter right now. The Valhalla Valkyries were able to get that last offering, sneak that one away from the Leviathans and grab it. And they decide to put the buff from it on the mid laner here, as opposed to usually where we see it go on, you know, the junglers, the supports, the ones who are going to get very active in this early game. Maybe just trying to keep Benny alive more than anything else here in this mid.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, heal up a tower, I guess. A Divine Light applies a slow, so you can stick close to your enemies, but BitiQue's gone for the damage style of build, doesn't have that Breastplate of Valor, that survivability that would allow him to get the full value of that scroll. I think maybe it was just more so a necessity. Like, yo, Gamma probably not going to get to this. I'll just take it myself.
For now, they'll put it to use at least taking out this Greater Scorpion, so the Valkyries are able to claw themselves back in a little bit closer in this Goldie, what was the thousands, slowly dropping itself down to about 800 right now. But now your core surrounded by 2. Aquarius will have to leap away. A rotation in from Kirmi, who's still down versus Panatom. Kirmi with that shield will heal a little bit back up against Yarkor, who is just holding W key against this team. But up against Aquarius, he's not going to get as much value from that heal. Leap in from Aqua to get himself out. Gamma now belly flopped in, falling low. But that ultimate from the Nemesis might be holding him out for a while. Yarkor up with the bat out of hell. Needs a lot of damage to take out Gamma, but he misses, and instead, it's going to be Shinto to pick up the pieces right after. But BitiQue with a big snipe to take down Yark. But unfortunately for him, it's Shinto and Panatom to seal the deal here and take out 3.
The Leviathans, that was a long fight. That was not, hey, we're looking for a pick, we're going to go on somebody squishy. It was, all right, so I'm going to apply some damage to Gamma. Oh no, BitiQue's behind me. I got to do it to him. Kirmi has stepped a little too far forward. And it was just this weird, long chase from the Leviathans until eventually the Valhalla Valkyries group up a little bit too hard and allow a double knock up from Rongyu, a double pull in from Panatom. Yarkor left alone in the back line. Thank goodness for BitiQue, or that fight goes even more south. That ultimate confirming that kill is massive for the Valhalla Valkyries, but it still goes heavily in favor of the Leviathans, not only in the kill department, but also off the neutral objectives. And desyncing neutral objectives is always valuable in Smite, especially when you've got the lead, and the Leviathans have got that in spades 11 minutes in. So once we see what I'm assuming is going to be the Leviathans aggressing onto the Cold Fury shortly, there will not be an answer from the Valhalla Valkyries on the opposite side of the map. It's, can we defend gold? If yes, defend gold. If no, I guess that's just a further lead for the Chaos team.
If we look over here in the solo lane, Aqua's got about a level and a half up over Yarkor, which is the only spot that they have a real lead right now. And one thing that was noticed in Game 1 was Aquarius wasn't really getting very active in these first 15 or so minutes of the game for the Valks last time around. This time now, finally able to get into some of these fights, get some of that gold up, and put Yarkor down here. I mean, he's got 2 full items now on this Cerberus, both in that helmet tree. but all that solo lane pressure is not going to do anything if the mid 2v2 and the rest of the Leviathans are just going to walk over to a Gold Fury.
Yeah, there's your if statement, and the Valkyries said, no, we cannot defend the Gold Fury, and so we will not defend the Gold Fury. The Leviathans take that one easily.
Panatom pulled just off the mark because of the beads from Benny. Panatom will dash his way out. Snipe from Benny just a little off the mark. Shinto will leap in place. The reverse rebuke will lock down Shinto, but Shinto is not concerned at all in that quadrupedal stance.
Whoa!
But Wowie finds the 1v1 up against Zapman and gets a little ray of hope out here for the Valks.
That is massive for the Valkyries. You need this Medusa to establish pressure. That is what you picked this god for. It came a little bit later than I think the Valkyries would have liked, but better late than never. And finding that solo kill against the 3-time is massive for the Valkyries here. 15 seconds left in the grayscale. Potentially a tier 1 tower. Global Golden experience means a lot.
They're not going to be able to get much on this tier 1 with Rongyu and Panatom standing by. Intoxicate out of Rongyu just to help clear the minions out and make sure that you don't get to do any of the damage to the tower there. But nonetheless, a solo kill by Wowie helps get a little bit of extra boost here towards the Valks dual lane. 3-1 so far on this Medusa.
That is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Valhalla Valkyries. You need a lead somewhere on the map, somewhere you can play around, and having both side lanes now with a pretty significant lead is going to give them opportunities, the Valhalla Valkyries that is, to look towards these subsequent objectives. Unfortunately for the Valkyries, it's going to be a while till either one of these spawn up. Pyromancer and Gold Fury taking a little while, taking a little break on the game. But once they do respawn, Aquarius with a lead can create space around the Pyro. Wowie can do this all over again.
Well, we get to see the actual 1v1, and Wowie
simple
just outboxed him. Plain and simple, clear as day. I mean, losing the latter half. Okay, maybe not as much now. We kind of gassed him up a little bit right at the start of that fight. He was really manhandling Zapman in that 1v1, but then Zapman got those big autos. You see where that sustain plus crit early really came back to help out Zapman. Unfortunately, not quite enough as well. He was able to end out that kill.
Yeah, had Zapman been like, I don't know, 10% luckier, one more crit, could have very well changed the face of that fight, especially with that Aussie passive proc. You're healing upwards of like 60, 70 HP per auto attack when you are critting, whereas Wowie had not had any crit chance available to him just yet. I guess Zapman just hedging his bet saying, hey, I might just get lucky here. Unfortunately for the 3-time, not the case. Fortunately for Wowie, both land all their auto attacks. Medusa simply just does more damage.
Zapman will clear out the left side camp and get another offering now up for the Leviathans, but it seems that the Valkyries will be able to get this second Obelisk as that last one does go down. So once again, Obelisk control, that extra global golden XP to the team, is really keeping the Valkyries in this and keeping them from being too far behind. This 2K, 1,700 gold lead's been sitting here for about the last 5 minutes of this game.
And that's exactly what the Valhalla Valkyries need. Bide your time. Get to that point where your team fight does start to become incredibly strong. Once this Nemesis can stop that frontline aggression, because it's a pretty simple engagement from the Leviathans. Yarkor playing a little bit more so a damage role, going towards only bruiser items so far for his defense. No real dedicated tank items, means that it's going to generally just be Rongyu starting these fights.
Zapman surrounded by 4, rolls out, gets to the sky, but how much time will that buy him, as now all 5 of the Valks are here to shut down the 3-time. They said, not this time, Zapman, you're not coming through. But with Shinto rotating over, Valkyries got to be a little bit more careful. Aqua will make sure to keep the mid laner out, and this Cerberus is swinging pretty hard up against our mid laner. Shinto will have to use the beads to get away.
Aqua went massive there. That was a great play just to buy time for this left side push. Forcing out those bees means that Shinto is going to play very safe in the near future. This is a huge push for the Valks.
BitiQue holding down with that heal in the tower, but Gamma is falling low, eating one too many tower shots. That shield is not enough help for him, and instead it's Jarkor to clean things up. First kill goes to the solo. Second kill goes to the solo. Can he make it? A 3-piece, throws out the bats, and the autos after. It's a triple kill for Yarkor.
The Leviathans will not make it easy for you, despite everything lining up so well for the Valhalla Valkyries, removing defensive relics, literally removing the Hunter from the game. Just weren't quite able to get those last couple of auto attacks onto the tier 2 tower. It was a natural disaster ultimate from Panatom. That Typhoon went massive 3-man knockup despite having Gamma separate the fight. Just that CC to keep the Valhalla Valkyries there for a couple more seconds with enough to buy time for Yarkor to rotate in and put the stopper on that engagement. Now, 10-6, the Leviathans, they may have let that gold lead slip for just a moment, but they've taken it all back.
Gamma is just holding on to that tower for so long.
Hold on.
Sure, you've got
Whoa,
the shields.
okay.
And Aquarius will just walk up and steal the Pyromancer away from the Leviathans. Get themselves a little bit of extra gold here. Now for the boys in blue, and try and mitigate that extra spike that went down towards the Leviathans from that triple kill. You can see it right back up exactly where we were just a minute and a half ago.
Man, Aqua is the hero that the Valkyries need right now, coming massive in the team fight, stealing away these objectives. And what did I say earlier about desyncing objectives? Super important when you're ahead. It's not as important from behind, but it will offer you the opportunity to put up a defense without allowing the Leviathans to push their lead even further. We are starting to get to that point in the game now where this Ra is really dealing a lot of damage. Kirmi just finished up the Erendite. That's a massive power spike for this Nemesis. Hydra's Lament now having 10% penetration in Season 9 means that that is very strong, and Nemesis being one of the best auto-cancelers in the game should be able to apply that passive very easily. I think that the Valhalla Valkyries have now gotten to the point where they can start looking towards these fights proactively instead of reacting to what the Leviathans are doing.
It seems that a lot of this gold lead that the Leviathans do have over the Valkyries is in that mid lane. We see Shinto go back and pick up a Soul Reaver. And just at the same time, BitiQue had gone back and picked up tier 2 towards that Obsidian Shard. So about a tier 1 of an item down in that mid lane, but that's mostly where that brunt of the gold has come through. You look over at Aquarius, double helmet Pridwin is going to give him a lot of defense, especially up against some of these more physical heavy gods. Gamma won't be able to make it out thanks to the help of that Riptide, though.
Yeah, but he's so low HP now, and with the objective already spawned up, the Leviathans can keep up this pressure. It's a 5-man roaming death ball looking towards his purple buff as of now. I guess they're just going to wait out this Oracle vision, and there it goes. Fall back to the objective. The Valhalla Valkyries, they're going to have to face check it.
Gamma's still low. Got a little bit of healing back there thanks to the help of BitiQue, but Oni Fury will not be started up by the Leviathan. Still recognizing that vision is there. They're not going to want to risk that pull, especially with Aquarius right up at the front. I mean, he took the Pyromancer all by himself last time. What's to stop him from taking yet another objective?
Hopefully 5 members of the Leviathans.
Hopefully.
Right? Yeah, you'd hope they would be able to stop this Cerberus from just walking in, but it's not the cleanest CC core from the Leviathans. I think this is a much safer play. Just apply your siege, deal some damage, drop Aquarius down to below 50%. That's one more way to open up the door, and well, they've already forced the Valhalla Valkyries all the way back into their tier 1 towers. This Fury's gonna go quick.
Unless Wowie can find a steal
Can he
with
do
the
it?
Petrify. He's got to do it now, but he won't. Instead, it will be a Fury going to the Leviathans, but Aqua has shown up, throwing some damage out at just Yarkor. Shinto leaps away, and Aqua will go in. That's the gas pedal for the Valkyries. He'll find 2 with the other, will not pull anybody. BitiQue with the Celestial Beam will find 1. Gamma with the Rivers gets another one, but Wrong You can at least hold them out and get 1 kill up for the Leviathans to start.
Panatom still hovering nearby, no ultimate available. Yarkor forced to go up in the air just to escape the onslaught of the Valhalla Valkyries. They started it earlier, they're gonna finish it now. Tier 2 tower in the dual lane will go to the rookies of the league, and the Leviathans, they may have got the objective, but that fight afterward was costly. That is the least value Gold Fury I think I've ever seen, because the Valhalla Valkyries, they take it all back.
Yeah, they got tier 2 tower that they wanted earlier on. You can see in the graph right after here, gold went to the Valkyries here. Barely even 500 off that Fury over to the side of Leviathans. Meanwhile, Valkyries did 5 times that around that point here. Now Wowie level 18, still a level up over Zapman. That experience, negligible. That gold, one of the lowest that we've been ever since that first blood through here, just under 1,000 gold up now for the Leviathans.
Yeah, BitiQue is getting a lot of value in these team fights. The sustain, the Lotus Crown giving your team additional defense is coming up massive. Kirmi is essentially just a shot caller in these fights. Not maybe in the communications. I don't know how the Valhalla Valkyries operate as a team, but certainly play on field. It's whoever this Nemesis is ulting, that's the guy. That's the guy we need to go on, and it's been very clear and concise from the Valhalla Valkyries so far. That said, they're still lined up against the world champions. They still have a long way to go before this game becomes clear, before the outcome becomes clear. I think Fire Giant is going to have to be the great separator in this one.
And BitiQue, who's been that shining hope to keep this team in alongside Wowie. BitiQue did hit 20 before Shinto, a rare sight to see somebody outpace the experience to Shinto. But Shinto does hit that level 20 right afterwards. BitiQue now going back to base, has that full penetration online, the 40%. Now with the Obsidian Shard, Charon's Coin combo, and now you throw in a Pendulum right afterward. Lots of CDR, lots of pen in this build.
Yeah, that is a massive power spike. Searing Pain is going to live up to its name, I'm thinking. Whoever BitiQue connects with is going to be feeling it in the rest of that engagement.
Zapman caught out by the Riptide, has to ult right as the fight starts, but gets caught by the River's Rebuke right after Aegis's to buy some time, but it's not enough time. It's Aqua time right now. He'll find one to start this fight out.
Gamma's ultimate was so clean there. Sure, buy some time in the air, land in a cage, and that's exactly what Zapman does. 40 seconds to think about his transgressions. The Valhalla Valkyries pull out the Fire Giant.
We'll start it up here. Aqua just zoning while the Pyromancer goes down instead. So the Valkyries try and scrape up a little bit of extra gold. And these Riptides from Gamma, what started the fight just a moment ago, continuing to buy extra time for the Valkyries. Still 20 seconds, though, before Zapman is up. And the Valkyries will start up the Fire Giant. Rongyu is here, but it could just be a bait from the Valks to see who they can pull forward. The answer is Rongyu, who's belly flopped himself in place, but Aqua is getting shredded by the backliner. Shinto finds one. Rongyu with a big intoxicating Yarkor diving into the backline. Now bat out of hell, but he's not going to find any big targets out of this one. He'll swipe through 3, and Gamma all by himself in the back gets taken out by Panatom. Pull in by Panatom, finds Benny for the double.
Man, and it's not over just yet. Wowie gonna drop the Aegis. We used to call that the Zapman Aegis. This time, it goes over to Wowie, loses out on that relic, and his life immediately afterward. That fight was clear. What changes that entire engagement? It's Panatom's ultimate, man. That decimated the Valhalla Valkyries. Connects with 3, locks down Aqua, who's left alone in the back line. Man's tanky. Man's been doing a lot. He can't do it all, though. Just gets shut down. Now the Leviathans from the brink, from a fight that was looking so good for the Valkyries. They started off by removing Zapman. All goes to the veterans. Fire Giant on 5 and plenty of gold caches on the map. I'm counting 3 tier 2s and a tier 1 on left. From the go ahead and pick up, fall back to a primal. You don't even necessarily need to go towards a Phoenix just yet, but I don't think that'll stop these veterans from trying if they see an opportunity.
I wish I could have seen Zapman's player cam during that, because this has just been a staple of what happens against the Leviathan teams. They lose Zapman to start an engagement.
They laugh it off.
They all go, Zapman's dead. And then they just win these 4v5 team fights, and Zapman the whole time's going, man, I wish I was a part of these fights, but good job killing them all, guy. You did a really good job. This is kind of sitting in there as that moral support. And it feels that way in this game. 0-5 and 3, Zapman has just been bullied by the Valks, but that's the Zapman passive. You go down early and you come back swinging in the late game.
And he is swinging, by the way, and Venom Deathbringer confirmed for Zapman, so that's a lot more crit. You've got standard Deathbringer stats here, but you're also making whoever you crit do a little bit less in these team fights. And, well, if Zapman's going to be a facilitator, I'm sure that's one way for it to ring through for him. It's a 4-1 split right now. 4 down the left, 1 down the center. Yarkor acting as that solo agent, and nobody wants to line up.
Maybe a little late to group here by the Valks on this left side. And Panatom didn't find anybody with that pull. Has now forced all 5 of the Order side team to try and defend against this bird, but the Leviathans have already called for the retreat. They're going to back away from this Phoenix and instead head towards this Primal Fury and grab themselves an extra bit of objective, use this Fire Giant as much as they can, but there are still 2 more towers on the map, Mifflin, that they need to take before maybe they start looking at these birds.
Hey, 2 entire minutes with Fire Giant as well. Might as well take your time. Primal Fury will go down, as will the tier 2 in mid. Yeah, not much defense here from the Valhalla Valkyries, and in allowing them to just rotate throughout the map, they say, okay, well, we'll do exactly that. The Leviathan's going to go ahead and strip away that right tier 2 now. But you've done it all. You've taken the neutrals, you've taken the towers. It's time to talk about the base defense of the Valhalla Valkyries, and it's pretty strong. We've seen the space control of Aquarius. We've seen what Gamma can do with these walls. That all is so much easier to do when you're just establishing defensive positioning, when you're forcing the Leviathans to fight forward into you. Wowie's ultimate going to be a lot more consistent in these team fights. It's a little bit harder to apply Petrify to multiple people in jungle engagements because the corridors are so narrow. There's so many walls you can hide behind. Simply not the case when you're sieging a Phoenix. So I'm thinking the Valhalla Valkyries have got a very strong opportunity to all-in engagement. It's, okay, Aquarius, you got to get in, you got to force the beads. All right, Kirmi, whose beads are down? Connect that slow. Benny, just hit the ult, man. Just whatever you do, connect Searing Pain. And then from there, if the Valhalla Valkyries hit pay dirt, if they can remove a priority target, that could just stop the aggression from the Leviathans. That said, with only 50 seconds left with Fire Giant, we might see the Leviathans slow it down. No reason to leave it up to risk. Fire Giant going to be spawning in just over about 2 minutes. So maybe it's just going to be a slower pace. Group up on this tier 2, fall back, spend up all that gold, and see whether or not they can force the Valhalla Valkyries to take a fight in that neutral territory, in that jungle, where it does become a lot more difficult to apply all their damage.
It doesn't seem that the Leviathans are overly concerned about this tier 2, a small grouping around the Fire Giant pit by the Leviathans. They could go for this tier 2, but they could also just ignore it entirely if they choose to, but that choice will not be so. Yarkor will start pushing up some of these jungle camps, and Shinto pushing up the wave will mean that the Leviathans can take the last tower off the map and leave it only now to the Phoenixes for the Valkyries to have to defend up against this strong 5 of the Leviathans.
Still
here.
going.
Look how far Panatom was up by himself, standing inside that speed buff while the rest of the team was pushing.
No fire.
Fire Giant is now gone off the waist of the Leviathans, but the Phoenix is still melting through. Zapman pumps in a few autos, drops it down to about half HP, but the Leviathans have already backed off the fight.
Yeah, that is a lot of discipline from the Leviathans. You drop the Phoenix down to 50%. You haven't taken any damage either, but they say, all right, look, they showed up. The Valhalla Valkyries, they passed the first check. You showed up to defend. We're going to respect that. The team fights haven't been so clean that the Leviathans feel confident in their ability to just take a fight there without the buff. So instead, fall back, pick up that pyro, establish vision control around the Fire Giant pit itself, and they have got vision control, by the way. Look at all those wards, all centuries deep around the Valhalla Valkyries jungle pass as they rotate their way in. Reset, go back to base, maybe buy a couple more wards, so if the Valkyries do step up to D-ward, you're going to have even more in your own back pocket, and then go for the objective itself. Seems the Valhalla Valkyries will bring the fight to the Leviathans. They like their odds in this neutral territory fight.
Well, one of those sentries will finally go down there as the Valkyries clear it out. Still 3 sentries in pocket, but it's 5 on the other side for the Leviathans. Well, I guess technically we can make it 6 if we count the one in Yarkor's relic slot
And
there.
I do.
Once again with that Bracer of Brilliance. Fully upgraded shells on both sides. One of them will try and get them out of these Umoja walls. Aquarius in the backline to separate the carries out from this Fire Giant, but BitiQue has been isolated by Wrong You, by Yarkor. Zapman able to find one. Panatom takes down Kirby. It's Wowie and Gamma left, and they don't have much time left on this earth. It'll be Wowie going down, Panatom with a double of his own, and the Leviathans can close out game number 2 and the set with a deicide on the Valks.
It ends looking a lot like game 1 did, but you got to talk about the path that got us here, and I would argue the Valhalla Valkyries made major adaptations off of just one game in the SPL. That is their first SPL tier match so far this year, and I think they look pretty strong lining up against the world champions.
Yeah, Titan does not stand a chance here with the minion wave in. The Leviathans can close out this set and put their first win of the board here for the SPL in Season 9, though it won't affect them too much beyond here. It's at least a nice little kickoff to get them started and get their hopes ready for Season 9.
Yeah, if that's a heat check, the Leviathans are looking hot, all right? I'm not going to mince words. They look confident. Seems like this was the outcome they were expecting. But I think the Valhalla Valkyries did enough there that they earned my respect. I'm sure the rest of the league is saying, yo, there might be some threats there.
Yeah, we could see some very spicy stuff out of the Valkyries as this season comes. Again, even when the full team is able to be here ready to go, that will also change things up. That communication does always change when you have 5 in the studio versus only having a couple of them out here, though. Again, a strong performance. Not the easiest opponent for you to have to face off first for your Season 9 debut, though.
No, I'm sure the Valkyries will have some choice words with the admins like, yo, really? You got to give us the Leviathans? Are you sure? Like, can we get anybody else? But again, I am proud of what I saw from them, and considering that they were the SEC representatives who just now jump up to that SPL caliber play, they look good. They've already made their home here.
Good show by the Valkyries, but a better win here out of Leviathans. Net them the first set of the day. We'll take it to a break, come back to the desk right after.
set of Season 8. They win the first set of Season 9 here. It's the Leviathans with a 2-0 victory up over the Valkyries and kicking things off already with a pretty happy start for them. Game 2, a lot closer than game number 1 for a long duration. Unfortunately, it was about 22 minutes, finally a fight that ends up going over towards the Leviathans. We were memeing Zap a little bit. He had very low player damage for a long time. I think there was a point, Trelly, we were talking about it, where he was like 0-5. He's just kind of vibing. Like, it was very typical Leviathans of Zap is just constantly getting slaughtered, and then everybody else would clean up.
Yeah, it did seem, in Zap's defense, besides the one solo kill that Wowie was able to get, it did seem like a lot of the Valks were kind of dogpiling on him in his lane, trying to make sure they at least put that lane ahead, because you got to play off what's ahead. Obviously, Aqua had a small lead, and of course, Wowie did get a little bit there. But besides that, I mean, the Leviathans looked very crisp, and they were able to run away with that one once they got to their team fight presence.
And it was, again, very fun to watch the first few minutes. I think we got to see really good adaptation from the Valkyries, from the, like, again, initial game 1 to game number 2. It's just really hard to take on a team like the Leviathans, as it turns out. I said that a lot last year. I feel like I'm going to be saying that a lot this year.
Yep.
They end up doing a lot of really successful things over on the right-hand side of the map. And again, it stands out to me just because we got to see Shinto once again have a very, very strong performance. I do believe, and I think J-Mac called it out, technically BitiQue had hit 20 first, which was like amazing compared to the fact that Shinto gets every amount of experience, it feels like, most of the time.
Yep.
But Panatom gets, active pretty early on and kind of keeps things going for them. And this is exactly that fight that I was talking about where everything felt really back and forth between them until this fight.
Yeah, it seemed like Yark was able to just kind of go to the back line, create so much space, and then once he went up to the bat out of hell, everyone sort of had to just run because you can't peel that, right? You just have to sit there and let him go down. Obviously, Panatom is going to be doing crazy damage the whole game. There's no secret about that.
Pete Zapp's player damage, bottom left, just throwing out there.
Yep, bottom player damage in the game at that point. Had to call him out real quick, but just perfect play out of the Leviathans. That's what you come to expect from this team.
Well, and it's just exactly what I come to expect from their style of play. We talked about it a lot last year, but depending on who was getting dove the most, whether it was Shinto or Zap, in any given team fight, what would end up happening is whoever died first, the other picked up the slack. And unfortunately, when you're dealing with Harkon and Assassin, you've got Panatom playing the Susanoo. There's a lot of other places for your deaths to come from than just the two backline carries than you're used to, and we got to see that out of the Camazotz as well. It's just a pretty clean play from both Shinto, from Panatom, and of course the frontliners there. And then you know what? Zap looked really good towards the end of that game, so that's really where we got it. He's the 3-time man. He's got it going for him. We've got Shinto standing by, though, for our interview to ask about that set. And I'm going to skip the games first. Now that you've played them, though, and you can take those games into factor or not, how do you feel about the new Valkyries?
I'm pretty sure they have a lot of potential. They need to adapt to how SPL is played and the meta and everything, but I think they're going to be a pretty good team at the end of the year, or maybe.
Well, it's going to be really fun. You guys kicked this year off with a big win, and there's a lot of focus around mid and left, right, around that obelisk. Do you feel a little more pressure in your lane? Is there a lot more presence from other players?
Nah, I feel like it's the same in mid. I mean, you are picking up the flowers in mid cam and stuff, but I feel like it's kind of the same for mid at least.
You played the Tiamat game 2. We've seen you play Tiamat plenty of times already, and she still seems to be pretty good. ESET game 1, where did she come from?
I feel like it's really good right now. You can literally boost every single objectives, and with the helmets and Boystorm getting buff, I feel like those two items are really good for ESET. So I feel like it's good.
With the jungles and that's still kind of up in the air as what assassins are going to be there. But does their lack of mobility hurt her too much?
No, if you need to go defense with her, and you're gonna be fine, 100%.
Well, and you know what? You showcased that, right? You were pretty fine throughout all of game 1. Congratulations on your wins, man. It's a good way to kick things off. We'll see you in the semifinals tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, Trelly, they're going to be moving forward. Again, kickoff tournament, single bracket elimination. All 8 teams come in. Only one team stands on top at the very end. Now, that's the team that stood on top of everything at the end of last year. So, of course, you have to give them a little bit of precedence as to what we can expect from them. They're going to be going up against, I'm trying to remember the bracket, I believe the winner of the next set, Dragons and Bolts. So that's going to be a very fun one. And that's where things get interesting. I mean, you get some new picks out of the Leviathans here, the ESET kind of coming in, and she seems to think she's pretty good. So maybe we're getting some fresh picks here in Season 9.
Yeah, I think these sort of tanky style mages are going to take over the meta by storm a little bit. Obviously, we're kind of the fading out of the flat pen meta and into this helmet meta. The Void Stone we've been seeing picked up a lot. These 2 defense item mages, once they get those online, they're able to stand a lot taller in this lane. They can't get focused as much. Maybe that's why we're seeing this focus towards the duo lane where Zap was getting focused a bunch, because he doesn't have he has no defense items. He's just a carry.
I guess it matches up with what we said going into that, where we're just like, good luck killing Shinto. you had trouble killing him before. Now you're going to have even more trouble.
Yep.
Again, I'm going to mention this one just out of credit for what it is. Happy birthday. It's Smite's birthday week, by the way, everybody. And we even got my handy-dandy notebook with the nice little bow on it. There we go. And, of course, you can get 33% off gems in-game right now. And I was right. It is the winner of the Jades and Bolts that the Leviathans will be facing. That's the match that's going to be coming up next. And then, of course, later, Scarabs, Titans, and then Scarabs, Kings, Titans, Warriors are going to be going up against each other. 1, or I guess technically 2 spots in the semifinals waiting for them. And there will be a 3rd place match there on Sunday. But here are the tentative timings for all of these. I'm excited. A good look at the Dragons, a team that mostly stayed the same, Trelly, but they have a new mid laner. Of course, the Bolts coming in, and they're just running it back 3rd time's the charm. They changed, I guess last year, technically they did add Haddock, so that was a new addition. But this year, It's the same old, same old.
Yeah, I think Jade Dragons, at the very least, are going to have a pretty big adaptation to make there in the mid lane.
Yeah.
Obviously, Pagon, his first time being able to kick off and play with these guys on the pro scene is going to be a big deal for him. See if, there's those butterflies he's got to get rid of here. But he has been playing at the top level for quite some time. At the very least, I think, he's got what it takes. And obviously, they wouldn't have picked him up if he didn't. But at the very least, it's his first time. It's his debut. Hopefully, he's able to just perform as we all know he can. And he's got a pretty solid opponent up against him in that mid lane. An ex-world champ in his own right, Venenu. So.
Yeah, just the 1v1 in mid is going to be great. But the good news is he's got a lot of really good guys around him too, right? So you're not just going up against an ex-world champ. You've got a good safety net around you. We'll see the Dragons and the Bolts and, of course, how that's all going to shake out right after this quick break.